What's up, everybody? Welcome to GameFace, episode 424 on Sifted Games at sifted.net. I'm Shane Satterfield, the founder of Sifted, and your humble host for the next couple hours of awesome video game discussion. As usual, alongside me to do that is the one and only Matt Keil. What's up, Matt?
I can't get you off the screen.
We're having issues, people. So our PC that's here in the studio that we use for chat and for Name That Game Tune came in today. It was working fine. Started getting the promotion ready to send out when the show started streaming, and the PC locked up. And now we've been going through a process of rebooting the PC 5 times. It actually came up right before the show was about to start, and I was like, yes, it's gonna work. And then the screen went black, and it has not come back up. And so, I don't know, maybe the PC will pop up in the middle of the show. Right now, it's not there. So, as of right now, there's no chat in today's show, and it's looking like we're not going to be able to do Name That Game Tune. Again, unless the PC pops up here.
Well, I'm looking at chat.
What do you say? Yeah, and I actually do have it on my phone, but we can't integrate it into the show. So, we can reference chat. We can't bring chat into the show on the screen. And we can't do Name That Game Tune because you guys need to be on the screen so we can tell who won in the whole interface. So, unfortunately, technical issues. We just ran out of time. We weren't able to get it set up in time. How's your week been, Matt?
All right.
Yeah? Anything exciting happen this week?
No.
No.
I'm trying to think. I'm more of a in-the-moment person these days.
Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't really do it. I don't remember what I did this week. After the Oscars, everything just sort of becomes a quiet blur. I mostly just played Suikoden.
Anything about the Oscars that stood out to you?
They were pretty hard to pick this year.
How'd you do?
I won the pool.
Oh, you did?
At the party I was
How
at.
often do you win the pool?
I used to win more often before I started hanging out with more filmmakers.
That makes sense.
I was a bit of a shark before that. I go to all these kind of casual Oscar parties, and everyone's like, "Why are you picking that? You like that?" I'm like, "No, but that's gonna win." And they didn't get it. The idea of picking a thing you didn't think was the best thing, and
that's foreign to a lot of people.
Yeah, and it was just like, "What?" And I'm like, "What do you?" I actually knocked down, drag out arguments with people a couple times at some of those parties.
Really?
I'm like, no, I don't think Green Book is good. I just think it's gonna win.
People can't comprehend that.
No, not really.
Interesting.
And these are people like to go to Vegas
right.
too. I'm just like, beginning to see why you
doesn't
never
mean
come
that
back
they
a winner.
win, yeah.
Like,
that doesn't mean that they win.
But yeah, I was shocked Demi Moore didn't win.
Yeah, I almost thought it was going to be like a mercy thing.
Yeah, I missed 5. And the only major one was Demi Moore. I missed both animations. I was glad Flo won. I didn't think it was going to win, but I thought Flo was the best one of those. Mm-hmm. Great movie. I just didn't think the Academy was going to vote for a Latvian animated film with no dialogue in it.
Yeah.
You know,
who would?
I would. But
no, I mean, who would think that they would vote for it? Yeah.
And I missed a couple of the shorts are always documentary shorts, live
Roll
action
the
shorts.
dice.
All the and I saw all of those at the Academy Museum. I'm like, oh, see, it doesn't help you. Like, it doesn't matter. Like,
yeah.
It's like the one that one live action documentary short I thought was probably the weakest one. But it's the one that was on Netflix, so everybody saw it.
Yeah.
So it was like sometimes that matters. Like if it's on Netflix, that's the new tell for those. Is like, is it on Netflix? Then it's easiest to watch. You don't have to sign into the Academy screeners. You don't have to do anything like that.
You can just watch it.
You just watch it.
Yeah.
And so like that gives if your short is on Netflix, it gives it a huge advantage.
So now I guess they're all trying to get on Netflix.
I mean, maybe. I mean, if you can, you do.
Yeah.
I mean, even
what about you? Did you try to get your stuff on there?
No, they don't go for fiction shorts.
Okay.
The documentaries can get on there.
Okay.
But they don't really do short fiction.
Gotcha.
There aren't really many streaming places that do that.
Maybe that's an opening in the market.
No, there are a couple that did, and they
didn't survive.
Short films are not of interest to most people.
I really like them.
I do, but one of the reasons they're not. I mean, I will say this, and maybe you're not supposed to say this.
Uh-oh.
But I went to going to the sitting down for like the live action shorts block for the nominees. I had that same sort of dread I sometimes have at film festivals when I sit down to watch a shorts block where I'm like, what is this going to be? Because sometimes you were at a couple of those. Yeah. You saw some of the other ones.
I'm like, maybe I should have submitted my film for this.
You see,
I didn't make.
You see these. Sometimes you see these shorts in these blocks, and you're like, do they think is my movie like that?
Right. I can see where you might think that. Do other people look at my film that way?
Are we that like that? Yeah. Do we look like?
You do not, by the way.
And it's like,
I'm just telling you.
But you know, it happens. Sometimes you end up in these blocks of these festivals, and you're like, what am I watching? But then, like, the 5 Oscar-nominated live-action shorts were all really good. Yeah. So it's like, oh, right, okay, yeah, right. They're Oscar nominees, right? These are not like randos being thrown into a mix. It's but it was funny to me. It's like, okay, I've seen that doesn't help at all. I got all the shorts wrong except documentary.
Well, those are hard, man. I mean, like you said, they're like impossible to pick. I saw the ratings for the Oscars were pretty good.
They're very good.
Like 20 million people watched. Of course, that's way short of the Game Awards.
Oh, yeah.
It's only 130 million short of the Game Awards.
Yeah, if only they could get...
I mean, doesn't it seem like if it were that easy that the Oscars and all these award shows
Doesn't it seem if that many people watch the Game Awards, games would sell more?
Well, they'd sell more, and these other award shows would do the same thing. They would stream on Twitch, and they would stream on
on Twitch, and they just run trailers for movies that are coming out the next year.
Seriously, though. I mean, if the industry really thought those ratings were legit, they would be copying what the Game Awards are doing to try to get those ratings. Like,
if you think those ratings are legit, I have a short film streaming service to sell you.
A lot of people do.
That's crazy.
Like, there's
140 million people don't do anything.
I know, I agree. I saw a prominent reporter, who I'm not going to mention, he's a mutual friend of ours, on Facebook the other night, arguing with people over that 150 million number. How people were just like, I don't know about that. And he was like, oh, no, it's like, well, if you don't accept these metrics, and you're not going to accept any metrics. And it's like...
No, I just recognize that people are watching shit for Twitch drops, dude. Yeah. Like, at one year, I had 4 streams of it going at once because it was all so unreliably janky that I kept switching between them. And I had the Twitch stream up to get the drops, and I had another stream up to get, like, it was like, 4 of the people watching that show was me.
Yeah.
So, there you go.
Well, this is normally the point where we go to chat, and unfortunately it has not popped up still, and I don't think it's gonna. But instead, I'm going to take this opportunity to remind everybody that we are supported 100% at patreon.com/SIFTD. That's SIFTD. For just $4 a month, you get all our content way earlier than most Patreons. It is well worth it. You also get all our content ad-free. So if you're watching our stuff on YouTube and you're sick... Also, we talked about this last week, Matt, YouTube ads. I noticed this week that they started doing this thing where they decide where the ads are going to go. So you will look...
Yeah, if you don't pick...
Oh, it's insane. There will be an ad every 90 seconds. Mm-hmm. Like, it shows, like, the timeline. Yeah, it's just ticks. Covered.
Yeah.
And if you go in and you change it and try to delete some of theirs, they give you some message that says, like, well, this may mean that you're not going to get the ad served, that you might get served otherwise. The point being... that YouTube is really bad with ads right now, and it's not necessarily the creator's fault. It is YouTube that is setting up the ads this way.
Yeah, if you don't specifically flag it to not have the ads or have it a certain... that happens on a couple of the channels I watch that very specifically don't have ads because they're Patreon supported.
Yeah.
Sometimes they'll forget, and like it'll go up and it'll just be riddled with ads, and the comments are like, what the fuck? And they're like, sorry, we didn't click the 14 buttons that you have to click to make sure that doesn't happen.
Seriously. So anyway, if you could help us out, that'd be great. If you're watching the show on YouTube right now and you're not a subscriber at Patreon, but maybe, just maybe, you are a subscriber of Twitch Prime. And if you are, you can give us a free $2.50 every month. Just go down below into the description to learn how to do that. Once you've connected your accounts, it's 2 clicks for $2. That's what Patrick always says, and he is right. It's literally 2 clicks to give us $2. If you can't do that, I don't know what to say. You must not love us. That's all I must say. Because it literally takes like 10 seconds. And you have to do it every month. We'd appreciate it if you can. And if you don't have any money, you can still help us. Like the show. Leave comments. Even if it's just best podcast. It doesn't matter what you write. As long as a comment is there. Leave comments. Share the show. I see lots of people saying, this show's great. Why does it get more views? Our new reviews, I've been seeing that about them on YouTube. These are awesome. These are some of the best reviews I've seen. Why aren't they getting more views? They're not getting more views because they're not being discovered. So share them on social media, like them, ring the bell on YouTube, do all that stuff. It actually matters and makes a difference. We'd really appreciate it. And to the people in chat, it sucks that I can't see you. That's all I can say.
J-Reed Vic notes that 140 million people play Minecraft, Grand Theft Auto, Fortnite, and Roblox, and that's it.
Yeah.
Like, those are the only games that have that kind of
a user base.
And the idea that that kind of a user base is tuning into a giant commercial for 3 hours every December, and then not watching any other game-related streaming content ever the entire year, a little difficult to swallow. I'm sorry. Like, where are they for Summer Games Fest?
Right.
Where are they for the Nintendo? Like,
well, I mean, Summer Games Fest also, he puts out some crazy metrics.
Some crazy numbers, but not like that.
No, it's true.
He knows he can't try to pull that twice in a year.
I mean, again, I've mentioned this, that I worked on the Spike VGAs, the Video Game Awards, for like 10 years. And it took a team of like 400 or 500 people working on that stuff for like 6 months to get like 1.5 million people to watch. And this was using the power of MTV networks, running promos on MTV, on MTV2, on VH1, on Spike TV, on Comedy Central. All those networks.
That was basically that was the peak. I mean, we got 1 million viewers live on G4.
For E3, yeah.
For E3.
Yeah.
And like
the peak.
And then and we obviously do not have MTV behind us, but so you do what we do, we got 1 million viewers. Mm-hmm. You do what you do, plus the marketing power of Viacom, you get 1.5 million viewers. Yeah.
That's my point.
Like, yeah, that was 15 years ago, but like it hasn't grown that much.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, the PC came up.
It came up, and it's a bunch of antelope in the desert. Like,
oh my gosh, the PC just came on,
like they just
guys.
got here from like Egypt's land.
What in the hell just happened? That is insane.
It's probably doing some weird update thing that it's probably too old to be able to process properly.
Maybe. Like when I went to restart it, it didn't say, like, it'll say like update and restart or whatever usually. It didn't say that. But whatever, the PC just came up. This is great. Let's see if it'll work now, if we can get you guys into the show.
Vincent says China's a large proportion of those numbers.
It is.
And they're looking for Hoyoverse news, which is possible. But I would argue that largely in a Western market, Chinese viewers are irrelevant to you. So like bragging about
you're not making money off of
bragging
that.
about that as a viewership thing is kind of pointless.
Yeah, the monetization is not there for that audience for sure.
Because the reason you brag about viewership is to get higher premiums for your advertising next time. Mm-hmm. You know, that's how advertising worked on TV forever. You know, Tonight Show. This many people watch Johnny Carson every night, so you have to go $5 million for a season
30 seconds or whatever
to advertise your dishwashing detergent. Like, that's how it worked. That's how these people got rich. That doesn't happen anymore, which is why you're not going to get rich doing that anymore.
Yeah,
because streaming ruined everything.
It kind of did. It definitely ruined the model for sure.
Yeah,
that it.
And you can never get that model back because everybody knows.
Yeah, you can't put the toothpaste back in the tube.
No,
as they say.
And that toothpaste costs a lot less to advertise now.
It does. So. Yeah, it absolutely does. So the PC is still loading up, but I think we're going to be able to get you guys into the show here. We have to get Chrome to load. The PC is actually coming into the TriCaster. I can see it, but we got to wait for Chrome. And once that's in there, I think we'll be good.
Vincent says he doesn't disagree, but if Jeff can fool a few people, notably those Korean free-to-play games that are likely funding much of his stuff, it's worth it. And that is true.
That is true. I mean, at the end of the day, it is just a business for Jeff.
Yeah, exactly.
That's all that matters.
I mean, the fact that some people don't seem to get that is amazing to me. The idea that
it's just doing it for fun.
The award thing is just there as an excuse to do a giant commercial. Like, that's the whole point.
Yeah.
Like, it's okay that's the whole point. Like, it's honestly a little more honest in what it is than most things these days.
I'd agree. Yeah.
Like it's, you know, and it's the inevitable culmination. I'm a little Daffy Ducky today because of the new Invisalign tray.
Oh, is that what happens when you get a new tray? It kind of messes with you?
I get used to where it sits a little bit, and like as my teeth shift around, they're not in the same place anymore. So my tongue can't go to the same place to make certain. You
have to learn how to say some stuff.
I'm gonna have to relearn how to talk a little bit.
Interesting.
It's very when they're not in. It's very weird to like. My bottom teeth are straight now. The bottom
already,
like mostly not 100%. I'm only halfway through this, but like when I run my tongue, it feels like somebody else's teeth.
Wow,
like that's not what my mouth feels like.
That's crazy.
It's never felt like they've been
like that for your whole life.
They're all overlapped my whole life, and now I was like, oh, what the hell is that?
Have you had any pain with them?
I mean, it's sore because they're moving my teeth.
Mm-hmm. They're not
actually the worst thing. we'll do too much information. Sure. The worst thing was a couple weeks ago when you put the new trays in. Sometimes they're a little sharp on the edges, and one of them cut the underside of my tongue. And that cut became a canker sore.
No way.
Which has happened to me. I've had canker sores if I get a cut in my mouth since I was a very young kid.
Okay.
It just sucks. And because of where it was, when the tray was in, it would just sit on the part that cut it. And so I had to take them out for like 3 days and let it heal because I could.
And then did it hurt when you put them back in because your teeth had moved?
I had to I lost 3 days basically.
Wow.
So they had to kind of move
Interesting.
back.
Still better than wearing metal in the mouth, though.
Yeah, that's a little better. But it's like, that sucked. And, if anyone who's ever had one of those on their tongue knows that it ruins eating, it ruins everything. There's no comfortable position for it. Mm-hmm. So I'm a little mad at the tray. Because that has been a problem is the new trays when they first come out, they are not, I'm like, man, you got to sand your shit down or something.
They're
going
sharp
in my
edges.
mouth, motherfucker.
Yeah, I mean, it's very sensitive.
And it's cut like my lips and stuff. I mean, usually at night when I'm asleep and I'm not like paying attention and I wake up and I'm like, what the fuck?
You're bleeding.
Yeah, I've been bleeding a couple times.
It's crazy.
But I mean, again, I had metal braces on a couple teeth for headgear when I was a kid, and that happened with metal braces too. Like you put
Nature of the beast.
Weird shit in your mouth, you're gonna do some damage one way or the other, and that applies to all walks of life, kids.
Pro tip. Well, unfortunately, Chrome is not loading on the PC. This is going to be a dilemma throughout the entire show.
You might get there by the end of the show.
Maybe by the end we'll be able to name that game tune.
Might make it just in time.
But we need to move on. This is usually the point where we bring you guys in and we see what you're saying. By the way, just thanks to anybody who's given us Twitch Prime at the beginning of the show. Obviously, I can't see it and I can't thank you guys for that. But if any of you have, thank you. I really appreciate it. I always do.
Andy T. Monahan,
okay.
Dreadzilla. And I think that's all I got.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Well, we are going to get on with the show. We have an awesome show today. One thing I'll say before we get going, our review that's going to be recorded offline today is for, no surprise, Split Fiction, which is Haze Light's awesome, and I'm just going to say it right now, awesome cooperative game. Before you guys watch it, I think Matt and I will both say that we like it. So, Crib Notes version of what we're about to record a little later, we both like Split Fiction. But we're recording that offline. That'll be our 4K 60 review for this week.
Glad I got it in my fantasy draft.
Oh, yeah.
Outdid your first pick.
Yeah, well, I guess you saw Death Stranding is actually coming this year. That helps.
That's good.
That helps a little bit.
Hope it's good.
Yeah, me too. But anyway, so in today's show, though, we do have one review for FragPunk, which is a free-to-play shooter that just came out for PC. It's supposed to come out for consoles. We'll talk about that when we get to it. We're also going to talk about Suikoden I&II HD remasters, which just came out this week. So a couple reviews in the show. As I said, the smaller games are still going to appear in our normal episodes of GameFace, and then the bigger stuff will be recorded offline after.
This FragPunk slander will not stand.
Yeah.
Biggest game of the year.
FragPunk?
I don't know. I've seen the pictures of it. The ads.
The funny part
didn't pull me in.
Yeah. One of the characters stole it could just be a crazy coincidence that they stole the likeness of the singer of Slowdive. It's this girl that has like a bobbed haircut, and one half of her hair is red and the other half is black. And literally, one of the characters in the game is exactly her. Could just be a crazy coincidence. I don't know. But I was like, wow. Like, maybe I should send her that photo and make sure she's getting paid. But anyway, we do have a couple reviews in the show. We actually have some great topics today. We're going to talk about the Xbox handheld right now. We're going to talk about The Last of Us Part 3, if that's ever going to happen. We have a great show for you guys. Hope you guys are excited. Let's get into it. We're going to kick things off with rumors from Jez Corden. Matt, who do you think Jez Corden at Windows Central knows?
I don't know.
I mean, it's insane. He literally knows everything. It's like he's Phil Spencer's son. He literally knows everything before it happens in Xbox.
Maybe he knows Phil Spencer's son.
Maybe. And he's never been wrong. Well, his big scoop this week is that something we already knew about, which is that Xbox is working on a handheld. We've talked about that on GameFace before. But this week, Jez Corden from Windows Central went a step further and gave us a bunch of information. Probably the biggest of which is that Xbox isn't actually going to make the handheld. It is going to work with an outside partner like Asus, MSI, or Lenovo, and then just brand the handheld as Xbox. Do you think that that is the right move?
I don't think making a handheld is the right move.
Yeah.
I don't think it really matters how you do it.
Yeah. I think it is the right move, honestly. Why why not let the other guys spend all the money on R&D and building the thing? And you can just slap your logo on it and make sure that it's what you're okay representing.
I mean, that's basically what consoles are now anyway.
Kinda. Well, I mean they pay for the R&D, though.
Not the PS5, but it's not like the next Xbox can be anything other than a PC that's kind of friendly to a TV.
Yeah, you're right. They kind of just have to figure out how to get it to fit in the form factor. That's kind of the X factor of what making
form
a console.
factor is kind of what lives or dies on that. And, just like the Switch. The Switch is an NVIDIA Shield with some weird hardware slapped onto it. You know? Like, it's you just got to make it appealing as a console, I guess. In this case, I don't really understand the appeal of an Xbox handheld if it's an Xbox walled garden thing. Like, why would you spend that money and not just get a PC?
Well, here's the thing. So they are saying that it is going to run a version of Windows. They don't know if it's going to be Windows 11 or Windows 12, which is right around the corner. Apparently, I was doing some research for this story, and
I
a lot of
upgrade
people,
Windows when I upgrade to a new PC usually.
Yeah.
Like, I don't usually want to do
Yeah, me too. But a lot of people think that Windows 12 is coming like this year or next year. And I'm like, I literally just built a PC and installed Windows 11 on it 3 months ago. Like, Windows 11 has not been around all that long.
I mean, Windows 11 was pretty new when I got that gaming PC a couple of years ago. I don't know. I mean, it's not like anybody loves Windows 11.
No, I don't. Although it is getting better slowly.
Getting better, but it's like, the new version of Windows, you got years before you got to worry about having to upgrade to it. Like, it takes forever to change that over.
Yeah. Well, what a lot of people are saying, you're probably wondering why I'm showing B-roll for Xbox Series S. What a lot of people believe is that it's going to be a portable Xbox Series S. Roughly
match the curve.
Roughly around the same power. As we know, it is the best-selling Xbox. It has outsold Xbox Series X by a pretty wide margin at this point. And so I guess the thinking is, if you make this handheld, that there's an HDMI out port on it that you can still plug into your TV or your PC monitor or whatever. It kind of changes the idea of what a console is, unless you're a Switch owner, I guess. But the thing is something I've talked about before they announced the Xbox Series X, I was like, why not just make the next Xbox a PC? With like a simple version of Windows on it. Maybe you can still use Office 365 and a couple other things on it. Make it work for productivity in certain ways, but also make it primarily a game console. It sounds like that might be what they're doing with this handheld.
I don't know if that's what they're doing with the handheld. I think that's what they're going to do with the next actual Xbox.
Yeah, I've been suggesting this for a while. I don't know why it hasn't done it until now. But the new handheld is being...
I think some of that was probably not wanting to give up any ground to the people that wanted the non-gaming parts of Microsoft, which we saw what happened when they got their hands on the Xbox One. Not wanting to give any ground to that side of the company makes a lot of sense.
That could be.
Maybe they finally kind of figured out maybe the Xbox One finally made it clear to everybody. It's like, do not do that. Like so they can maybe integrate things like that now without fear of the set-top box people coming. I feel like the set-top box camp is done.
I think it is. I hope so, because
that's clearly not a thing that's going to happen.
I mean, let's be honest. Xbox One killed Xbox.
Yeah. Also, you can't put things on top of TVs anymore.
Yeah.
So
where are you going to put it?
Where are you going to put it?
You're right. You can't. There's no place to put anything on top of a TV.
That's how old that stupid idea is. That TVs when TVs were big enough to put things on top of them.
Yeah. Well, Just Corden again is reporting that the code name for this handheld is called Keenan. And here's the crazy thing. He's saying it is coming before the end of this year.
That is interesting.
That seems crazy. But look, if you're Asus or any of these companies, and you already have these lines set up in China or Vietnam or wherever you're manufacturing your handhelds, and you just need to tweak things a little bit, install Windows on it, and then put an Xbox badge on it.
Yeah, I mean, you can do it pretty fast. It seems a little suicidal to launch that the same year as the Switch 2.
Yeah.
But
I don't think Microsoft is launching this, at least I don't think so, to be this product that's going to set the world on fire and outsell Switch 2. And
no, but it's also like, then why? Like, it feels like kind of an unforced error.
I think it's just going to be, I think it's really a Game Pass machine. It's like a Switch that'll play Game Pass games. That's what it seems like anyway.
Yeah. Feels like it would be a better use of your time and money to try to get Game Pass on Switch, too.
Yeah. I mean, you're right. It's probably smarter to try to do that. But yeah, so it's going to be a collaborative effort with an OEM. So it'll probably end up resembling some of these knockoff Steam Decks, like this one right here, the Asus ROG Ally. It'll probably end up working with Asus to create the Xbox handheld. That would be my guess. That would also be my pick of partners if I were Microsoft to create this, because you're obviously not going to be able to work with Valve and Steam. They're not going to. They're not going to work with you. So my guess is it'll probably be an Asus ROG Ally, like rebranded with Xbox stuff. So they're saying already they want to make sure that the Project Keenan will look and function as quote unquote unmistakably Xbox, and that means it'll feature elements like the guide button and similar quote unquote design sensibilities. If it has Windows, hopefully it'll drop a lot of the crap on Windows 11 that I hate, like OneDrive. Like, why would you need OneDrive on an Xbox and that thing just slows down Windows PCs?
God, I hope it has Windows Teams.
Right. What? Oh my God. Well, actually, I wouldn't mind having like a video chat thing on my Xbox. I would be down with that.
Sorry, Skype died.
It did die. They bought it for billions of dollars and it's dead.
What a fumble. What a crazy fumble. Like, Skype was literally the word people used to mean video chat for a while, even if they didn't use it, and they didn't.
It was a verb.
And then, like, the pandemic happened the moment, and they just lost
and
it
Zoom
all to
won.
Zoom.
Yeah. I think a big problem for me personally why I didn't use Skype is because it forced you to have the watermark on the screen.
Yeah.
And that's why TV stations stopped using it.
Yeah,
They're like, I don't
didn't
want
look
this.
good.
Yeah, I don't want this big Skype thing in the middle of our shot.
That was
like,
a big deal on Attack of the Show. They didn't want to use Skype because of that. Exactly.
It's such a simple thing.
It's
Just
stupid.
get rid of it. It's so dumb. But anyway, billions wasted by Microsoft on Skype. They're just going to shut it down. But I wouldn't mind having something similar on my Xbox. But you're right. Like, if you start adding stuff like that, it starts inching towards that set-top box idea, and you don't want to get close to that. There's all kinds of things at play here. What about like a Game Pass?
What is this drama where man got locked out of his house, so he's just going to play Battlefield?
I mean, they got to rationalize this stuff somehow, Matt. Because, we're all locked out of the house at least once every 10 years.
Forgot your keys, but you remembered that?
I hear you. What about like a Game Pass button? I'm surprised Xbox controllers don't have Game Pass buttons on them already.
I guess. I mean,
if that's your whole strategy, shouldn't you make it one button press away for people?
I could see that being a thing on the next one.
Yeah. So maybe on the handheld, it's the first time it debuts or something like that?
I don't know. Like, that locks you into something that you may want to abandon later.
Yeah. No, you're right. I mean, that's the thing. Are they going to abandon Game Pass later? Like, who knows? Like,
also, space is an economy on these things. I could see it on a Xbox controller, but I don't think on this.
And then the final thing from Jez Corden in this same story is that we had heard rumors a while ago that the next Xbox, the successor to Xbox Series X, was possibly coming in 2026 to coincide with the 25-year anniversary of Halo and Xbox. And that was kind of the thing that was going around. Jez Corden's saying no. He's saying that it's not coming in 2026. The next Xbox is coming in 2027, which doesn't make sense as far as synergy is concerned, but it may just make sense as far as production is concerned.
You may not have a choice on that.
Yeah. I mean, it seems... Don't you think it's weird that they would put the handheld out this year and then skip the 25th anniversary and then put another piece of hardware out on the other side of the anniversary?
I think a better way to celebrate that anniversary is to release Master Chief Collection on PlayStation.
Yeah. I mean, that'd be a great way too, for sure.
Certainly a more lucrative way.
Yeah. It feels like it makes more sense for the handheld to come out, at least to come out next year, so they put out some kind of a hardware on the anniversary. And then follow it up with the console the next year?
I don't think so. I mean, you put it out this year, it means you got time to put out a Halo version next year.
Yeah.
You can reskin that thing however you want.
I mean, hardware teams, software teams are separate, discrete departments. They shouldn't affect each other, what they're doing. So they should be able to put out a handheld and Master Chief Collection on PlayStation 5 in the same year. They shouldn't affect each other that much.
That's what I mean, but it'll just be this one. It'll just be a Halo skinned version of it.
Of what? Xbox Series X?
The handheld.
Oh, the handheld.
Just do a Halo version
just
of the
reskin the handheld for the second year.
Yeah.
Gotcha. Okay, I see what you're saying. Yeah, that would make sense too. But 2027, I mean, it kind of makes sense for the next Xbox.
Make it look like his helmet.
Yeah. We already went there. We already did that.
Yeah, but now the screen is this visor.
Yeah.
So like you're holding Master Chief by the ears while you play the game.
I mean, let's be honest. The Xbox Series X is a flop, and they should want to replace it as soon as they can. I mean, I understand why they don't want to, because they have to go through the R&D again, but they're already doing that. So, I don't know. It feels like 2027 at the latest for the next Xbox. I mean, at that point, how many years on the market is that for Series X? That's
7.
Yeah, that's 7 years for a console that failed. That seems like a stretch for me.
I mean, they don't really care at this point.
Yeah. You're right. I mean, they've said it. They don't care about hardware.
It's
You're
just
right.
ecosystem.
Yeah. They just want more people for Game Pass.
I mean, there's a good chance that the next Xbox is just like basically a Series S version of the Series X.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and you'll have a handheld, and then if you don't want a handheld screen, you can probably buy what would have been the Series X, but now becomes kind of the equivalent of the Series S for cheaper.
Mm-hmm.
It's not going to cost as much as the handheld, I bet.
I mean, we've also hit the law of diminishing returns for hardware at this point. You have to spend so much more to get such little performance gains.
Somewhat, but also it's like anyone who cares that much about performance out of an Xbox game is playing it on PC.
Mm-hmm.
Like, my Series X is completely pointless.
If you have a great gaming PC...
I mean, I was like,
it kind of is.
I had it on this week for some reason. I can't remember why. That should tell you something. But the last game I played on that was Outlaws in August.
Really?
That's like I said a couple weeks ago. I said I turned it on, and the time was wrong. And I realized that I still had it set to New Zealand time for the early access opening of Outlaws. From the last time I turned it on was August 29th last year.
Wow. Yeah. I use mine pretty frequently. Like, sometimes I just use it to play Rocket League at night or whatever before I go to bed. Like, I turn it on at least a few times a week usually.
I do not remember what I turned it on for.
Mm-hmm.
I remember I uninstalled a bunch of stuff. I'm like, well, I'm never going to play that.
Oh, it was for that old horror game that you were playing.
Oh, yeah, it was Deadly Premonition.
Deadly Premonition.
That's right.
Yeah.
I installed the 360 digital version, which is still...
And that's what it's still good for.
$19.99. Same price it's been for 15 years. That game was $20 when it came out. No one remembers that.
It still hasn't gone down.
It doesn't go down. Because why would it? It is absolutely worth $20. And no more.
Yeah, that's it.
Every other subsequent version of it cost more and was worse.
Yeah.
The only good version of Deadly Premonition is the original 360 version, and the best way to play that game is backwards compatible on an Xbox Series X.
Yeah. Or an old Xbox One even.
It runs better on the Series. It runs flawlessly on the Series X.
Yeah.
And like everything, like the PC version is one of the biggest disasters I've ever seen.
That happens sometimes with PC games. But anyway, when do you think we'll start hearing real announcements about this stuff? You think we'll get it around
probably
Summer Game Fest,
yeah.
not E3 time?
Probably.
Yeah.
I imagine everyone's waiting for Nintendo to show their hand.
Which is coming up pretty soon here. In like 3 weeks, we're going to know everything about Switch 2. Exciting. And then PlayStation already, rumors are floating out there that it's kind of thinking about bailing on Summer Game Fest, not E3. So that would leave the window open for Microsoft to just blow it out. So we'll see. I think the timing is about right, though. And if the handheld's coming out this year, it's going to be announced at Summer Game Fest. Period. Mm-hmm. Otherwise, you don't have enough time to market it and get everybody interested.
It might also be shown at GDC. We don't know.
No, you're right, actually. Or maybe rumors start coming out.
They might talk about it.
People will talk about it, and then you get leaks.
Those backroom conversations.
Yeah.
It's like, they told me it's gonna have little things in your hands. Or if you say PlayStation, it's gonna spike out and kill you.
So anyway, that's the latest update on the Xbox handheld, with Jez Corden from Windows Central says it's coming this year, and the next proper Xbox console, which he claims is coming in 2027. Next up, Mr. Druckmann is making all the rounds right now. He did a huge interview on Variety. He did a podcast. Sony has this podcast called Creator to Creator. Yeah. And he sat and did that and shared some new information about Intergalactic. But the interview...
With Alex Garland, of all people.
Yeah. But the big news is coming from his interview with Variety. And it was a feature-length, 8,000-word opus about The Last of Us, The Last of Us 2, The Last of Us TV show.
That was with Mason, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And in that interview, he said some interesting things. Now, he talked a lot about making a show. It really feels like he barely has one foot left in game development at this point.
Well, it's hard to argue that there's anything more important right now than that show.
Because it is. What's the date for that? It launches in a few weeks, I think.
It's April sometime, I think.
It's April?
May. I can't remember.
It's soon.
They
put out a huge trailer for it. It's on SIFTD right now, 2.5 minutes. I got halfway through it, and I just stopped watching. I
gotta admit, the only thing I'm actually paying attention to in premiere dates right now is Andor Season 2.
And what is the date for that?
April 22nd.
Wow. We got some good stuff coming up here in pop culture over the next couple months, which is exciting.
I mean, I'm not super as excited about Last of Us because I know it's going to be 2 more seasons before we actually see the whole thing.
Yeah. Yep. But that's coming soon on HBO, and that's the reason Variety talked to him. And towards the end, they start talking to him about the games, which obviously is what we're concerned about because we're a video game podcast. And I'm just going to quote these directly because people have kind of misconstrued and extrapolated some of the things that he said. I'm just taking his exact quotes from the article. Then there's the long whispered possibility of The Last of Us Part 3. And then Neil Druckmann responds with, I was waiting for this question. Druckmann says, sighing, when I bring up the prospect of a third game, and this is his quote, I guess the only thing I would say is don't bet on there being more of The Last of Us. This could be it. Mm-hmm. And so a lot of people have taken that to say that, one, there probably won't be a Last of Us Part 3, which is, to me, is really sucks. Like, I'm kind of devastated by that. But two,
well, the good news is he's lying. So
yeah, I hope so, because he's mentioned several times he has the ideas.
He wants the focus to be on The Last of Us 2, on the new show. On the show. And on Intergalactic. I mean, that's what they talk about in the creator-to-creator interview mostly. Mm-hmm. So he doesn't want to have everybody speculate, because if he admits that The Last of Us Part 3 is in pre-production or whatever, that's the only thing anyone's going to ask him about for the next 3 months. Yeah. And they don't want to do that. He wants to talk about this show, in part because this show is his gateway to getting the fuck out of video games and starting to direct movies and TV, which is what he really wants to do.
That was what I was getting at. It feels like he has one foot left in game development and is slowly moving out of game development. And as
soon as his foot is out of game development, The Last of Us Part 3 will be fast-tracked by Sony because they don't give a shit.
Yeah, because they're like, we need to sell 15 million
There will
copies.
be a Last of Us Part 3, whether Neil Druckmann makes it or not.
That's a good point, actually. I think you may be right. I think that Sony would step in and be like, sorry, man. Like, we love you, and you did a great job on the first 2 games, but this is like, we need
cha-ching, motherfucker.
This studio takes 7
why
years.
did we make 4 seasons of this show if not to make people want to play this game now?
Yeah.
And I would certainly rather play a Last of Us Part 3 made by Neil Druckmann, obviously.
Of course, yeah.
But I don't think this is his decision in the end. I mean, it probably is if he stays as the head of Naughty Dog. Mm-hmm. But as soon as he leaves to do what he really wants to do, which I think is make TV and film, linear storytelling content. Yeah, Sony's entirely in the clear to be like, all right, Naughty Dog, new guy running Naughty Dog, whoever those guys are, make Last of Us Part 3. We don't care what else you do, but make Last of Us Part 3.
What a horrible job that is.
Yeah,
I do not want to be the person that has to do that without Neil Druckmann.
I wouldn't want to follow up Naughty Dog's next game without Neil Druckmann after that, no matter what it is, let alone if it's Last of Us Part 3.
Right. Yeah.
Jesus.
Pachter's perspective on this was that he agrees with you that and me that Neil is trying to get out of game development because, let's be honest, who wants to work on something for 7 freaking years when you can work on something for like 10 months?
Yeah, 2 years. I mean, 2 years. Well, if you're involved start to finish on a movie, you're probably working on it for 2 to 3 years.
Yeah. I'm talking about like a TV show where you write it and then you go out and shoot it over 4 months and then you cut it together.
TV
over 6 months.
does happen pretty fast unless you're. I mean, takes 2 years for some of this,
right?
High prestige stuff. I mean, this Last of Us Part 1, season 1 was a while ago. Yeah, it took him 2 years to get this out.
Yeah, but his work, my point is, his work was probably maybe a year on the project. He didn't go out on the shoots every day and do all the grind of production.
He's a co-showrunner. He probably was pretty involved.
Yeah.
I imagine he had something to, at least an email to answer every day minimum.
Yeah.
And if he's going, I imagine he wants to be the equivalent of what he is in video games in his TV work, which is going to be fully involved for 2 to 3 years. Mm-hmm. But again, you can make a full 2-3 seasons of a TV show in the time it takes you to make one Naughty Dog game. So
well, Pachter seemed to think that PlayStation is probably making $200 million roughly off of each season of the show. Mm-hmm. And he's like, so look, if you have 3 seasons of The Last of Us, you've made $600-700 million. He's like, the game will probably turn a $1.1 billion profit roughly, but that takes 7 years. He's like, actually, financially, it makes sense to make the TV show.
Yeah. Well, on top of that, like, that's also how you get around. You get to also credit the Last of Us game for that, too.
Right.
Like, when it comes down to it, when you're kind of like looking back on what the Last of Us has done, you would include the revenues from the TV show as revenue that franchise has made you from the beginning.
Yeah.
It's how you get to that crazy number that Spider-Man did. Mm-hmm. Any kind of merch, any kind of anything in that suit, any kind of anything related to that at all, is any that version of Spider-Man counts as revenue from that game.
Mm-hmm.
So there is no doubt at all that Last of Us has become a massive. Is by far one of the most valuable things anyone's ever created for him.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the thing is like you have to assume that Neil Druckmann is loved by Sony beyond that, because not only did he make them tons of money, he made them tons of money with something that he created for them while working for them. They own it 100%. Sony simply does not have enough things like that outside of the video game space. The fact that this was able to make the leap to a successful non-video game format is incalculably valuable to them, because what hasn't been able to do that is Uncharted. And not to say they aren't going to try again with Uncharted, because apparently there is another Uncharted game coming, or an Uncharted movie coming at some point. But they haven't been able to fast track that quite the same way they got the second season of this in production, like the minute the finale of season 1 aired, right?
Mm-hmm.
So it's also possible, like, it's not impossible, it's unlikely, but it's not impossible that on his way out, if he intends to continue working for Sony as a TV director, that he could make some kind of deal with them that, like, you don't get to touch Last of Us 3 without my say-so. Like, that he could try to put that in his, like, kind of contract or whatever. Be like, that I still have... And you know what? Of all the people in creative space right now that I think would try that, Neil is definitely one of them.
Yep.
Like, it doesn't hurt to ask. Like,
like,
hey, could you maybe not do anything with this unless you have my blessing? Is not a crazy thing to put on the docket for something that you've made the company $1 billion doing.
Researching this topic, I was surprised actually that The Last of Us Part 2 didn't sell better than it did. I mean, it did great. It sold like 10 million in its first like handful of months. But at this point, it's still like at less than like 14 million sold.
No, it's like 17 now.
Oh, is it?
Yeah.
The best I could find was 14.
I saw a whole argument about this.
Oh, really?
Where people were claiming that Last of Us 2 was a failure.
Well, it was definitely not a failure.
But like it didn't. And again, Sony has that weird long tail on things. With Last of Us 2 and Ghost of Tsushima, they did that thing where at the end, they were both considered kind of end of life PlayStation 4 games. So they got to that $40 price point and stayed there for a very long time until Ghost of Tsushima popped back up because of the director's cut. So they sold a lot at that price point too. But like again, that Insomniac leak kind of gave away that like even at that point, that was like what 2022 numbers or something.
I think so.
Like at that point, Last of Us Part 1 had sold 17 million, and Last of Us Part 2 was a little over 10. So that was 3 years ago.
Yeah.
Like, and then you're about to hit another bump from the PC release. Like, I would be surprised if its lifetime sales don't end up hitting 20 million, because I think Last of Us 1 is in the 25, 26 million right now.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't be surprised by that either. But you look at like a Rockstar game, like Grand Theft Auto is just ridiculous.
You look at a Rockstar game, you're an idiot because it doesn't matter.
But Red Dead 2 even has done like 50 million.
But all of Rockstar stuff are just giant outliers, and Red Dead 2 cost $500 million.
Yeah.
Like, they're not spending that kind of money on this. Like, you can't, like, Rockstar games are nonsense. They're like you can't use them as a metric for anything but Rockstar. They're a weird outlier of outliers.
I would argue, though, if there is one studio to compare to Rockstar, it is Naughty Dog. It does get 7 to 8 years to make a game. Its budgets aren't quite as high as Rockstar's, but they're close.
It's going to cost them over $1 billion to make GTA 6.
Well, it's been 14 years.
Right. So, like, Naughty Dog, you're still not even in that range. There's a handful of developers that do get that kind of luxury, but they're still not spending Rockstar money.
Yeah.
Rockstar is another world. Like,
no, I get it. I totally get it.
You have to compare. I don't know. Like, Naughty Dog doesn't have a lot of peers. I guess probably some of the other Sony studios.
Even they don't get 7 years to make a game, though.
I mean, I bet they would if they wanted.
If they needed it.
Like, if they needed it, I bet like the next God of War would get that.
Sanuku is saying that. Oh, by the way, our chat is back, people. It finally popped up. It took an hour for the PC to load, but chat just popped up. Sanuku says what the boys don't see is that each of those games sold consoles for Sony too. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that's the point of these games. That's why they make them.
And I don't think, again, it doesn't sell more. It's never going to sell more than Last of Us 1 because Last of Us 1's still selling.
All right.
Like Last of Us 1 is cheaper and more available and is going to constantly still sell. Still sell. Still. Yeah.
You can do it.
Despicable. It's going to keep selling in part because that TV show keeps driving people to it.
Mitchell Ness says, I wish I could release something and have it sell well incredibly for 12 years.
Yeah.
There's not many things that'll do that.
Yeah, there's not a lot of games that do that.
I mean, even albums, like a good album, like it gets all its sales in
and
the
also,
first.
listen, people make fun of the remaster stuff, like how many times Last of Us 1 has been remastered or remade or whatever you want to call it. But the end result of that is it's always current and always in print.
And still looks decent.
And still, you don't look at it and think like it's a game that was made in 2012.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
You look at it and it looks like a current game. Like the people who watch the show and have never heard of it before and like, I want to try that. They load that thing up, they look at it, and it's like, oh, that looks exactly like everything else. So, because if you go back to the original PS3 game, no, people forget that was a PS3 game. I forget it was a PS3 game.
Yeah, I guess what I was saying is like if there's one franchise, one developer that I thought could sell 20 million units, it was this one, and it hadn't got close.
No,
and I was surprised.
But
by
it
that.
will get there
Eventually. Yeah, because it'll be remastered again for PlayStation 6 and PlayStation 7.
Yeah, it'll keep going.
It'll keep selling.
They'll probably start bundling them together, and
it'll be like the collection eventually.
The Last of Us, Ellie's Tale.
You're right. So anyway, so what do you think? Do you think Neil will make another Last of Us, or do you think he's done?
I think if he can possibly be done, he's done. When he said he thinks he only has one more game in him, maybe like a couple of years ago, I think that game was Intergalactic.
Mm-hmm. And isn't the game that we thought it was going to be? We thought it was going to be some crazy fantasy game, and as it turns out, it's sci-fi instead of fantasy. I mean, I do wonder if that other fantasy game is still...
I mean, it sounds like there's a... I think that is the same game.
You think it is?
Yeah, because it sounds like they haven't gone into much detail, but from what he's kind of vaguely talking about in that interview with Garland, it sounds like anything can happen on that planet. Mm-hmm. It sounds like that planet is crazy. Mm-hmm. So if you want orcs to show up, orcs could show. I just don't know.
Yeah.
Like, it's a very weird new universe. It's a completely different timeline that diverges in the late 1980s, and it's 4,000 years later, and they have done extensive world building on, is I guess the breaking, the diverging incident is a cult that rose in the late 1980s and became like a major religion and kind of took over the world. And they've done extensive work on developing what that was, how it changed, how it was manipulated, and kind of what it's become in those thousands of years since, and how it's related to this planet where no one has come back from it in 600 years, and no one knows what's down there. So like it's all up to you, your character Jordan, to go and figure out like how to get off of this thing. And he described it as very lonely, and like he wanted to get away from that idea where it's always Naughty Dog games are always two people chattering away and kind of having a little banter back and forth.
Yeah.
He wanted to be more of a Metroid like loneliness to it, which I think is cool.
Yeah.
I do think it's kind of risky because kind of the strength of Naughty Dog games is that banter, is that the dialogue writing. So by removing that, you're kind of like removing your safety net.
Matt, let's be honest, it's risky because it has an Asian woman with a shaved head as the lead character.
It's that, but it's also aside from that.
Honest.
Even if it was just Joel,
and
that's not risky at all because the only risk to that is you might not get the chuds, and that doesn't matter. I mean, even if it was just Joel by himself on another planet, you'd be like, well, if you don't have anyone to talk to, that makes it much harder.
It does,
to sort of like get that Naughty Dog flavor out of it. So they're trying something here.
He also said that the religion is a huge part of Intergalactic. Yeah. That's going to ruffle some feathers.
Good. Well, I don't know. His take on religion in Last of Us was odd in the sense of the Seraphim. He doesn't seem to have a very high opinion of religion to a large degree from what we can glean from his game so far. He seems to be a pretty realistic, grounded person in terms of his worldview, as far as I can see.
That doesn't fly in 2025, Matt. Being grounded and realistic.
No, well, that's what
he might as well be an alien.
Well, he said. He said to Garland, like, he's talking about Last of Us 2 and about some of the decisions they made and choices they did, really, made people really angry. And Garland just goes, "Fuck them."
Yeah.
Like, and
I read that,
and Druckmann goes, exactly.
Yeah.
And so we decided to get away from all the controversy. We make a game about religion and faith. And he's like, he knows what happened with that game, and he's leaning all the way into it on this new one. So it's like, yeah, fuck him.
Well, if you can do that and still turn into nice, tidy profit.
And he will.
Yeah.
Like, people can, these loud dipshits can whine all they want. There's nothing about Intergalactic that's not going to be appealing to, like, a normal person.
Yeah.
Like, you're going to look at that and be like, what the fuck is that? Like, let's check it out.
I'm playing a game right now that I can't talk about. And I am just wondering, like, if people are going to deprive themselves of playing this game because some idiot on YouTube told them not to.
Well, some people will.
I mean,
but there's not that many of them.
It is insane to think that someone would let some idiot on YouTube keep them from consuming something amazing.
I'm not kidding here. Every single game on Steam, every game that comes out, and even the Suikoden H2, you go to the discussion page on Steam. On the front page will be a thread that says, "Is this game woke?" And it will be someone who's like, "If there's woke stuff in this, I can't play it."
So pathetic.
It's like the new satanic panic for these like dim-witted morons.
Play the game backwards, Matt, and it's
and it's like, yeah, play the game backwards, and it tries to tell you to be a decent human being.
Don't do that. I'll just say it, like, if Neil Druckmann isn't working on the next Last of Us, my anticipation for that game is going to be extraordinarily muted.
It would definitely be a new skepticism high for me.
Absolutely. I have a lot of respect.
Not that I would want it to be bad, but it's just like, and also not that I think Neil Druckmann is a flawless storyteller by any means, but
in the scale of video gamedom,
I mean, and like, again, it's like, my skepticism on that isn't even necessarily the people who would, like, take his place, or, a lot of those people are the same people that made 1 and 2 alongside him.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, not like these people don't know.
Yeah, I mean,
they
get it.
My concern is always at the top. It's always that it's going to be, Sony says, give us Last of Us 3. We need to put it into production right now. And so you've got all these people, no matter how skilled and talented and creative and well-versed in The Last of Us they are, they still then have to come up with a third game, whether they like it or not.
Well, you wonder
if it's one thing if Neil Druckmann or someone who takes on his legacy after he leaves is like, I have a great idea for The Last of Us Part 3. Mm-hmm. Like, we need to make this game.
Yeah.
Like, that's great. Awesome. I'm in. But if it's Sony saying, like, these games make us obscene amounts of money and we want material for seasons 5 through 7 of the TV show, make it right fucking now. That's when I get a little...
I wonder, too, if Neil will be okay with saying, hey, I'm done making games, but I wrote the script for this, and I have the concepts for this. Here you go. If they would take it. 1, if Neil would do it. 2, if they would take it.
Mm-hmm. I don't know. That's a good question.
Yeah. Well, I guess
I think that's the question you can only answer if you know Neil Druckmann personally.
Right. Yeah. Well, I do hope he sticks around. I hope he keeps making games. As great as The Last of Us TV show is, I would rather play his video games than watch his TV shows. I'll just say that right out front. And I'm sure some people will disagree with me on that one, but it really hurts to lose talent like Neil Druckmann from the video game industry. You don't realize it. He pushes everybody else to be better.
Or to the side.
Right. There are hundreds of aspiring Neil Druckmanns out there right now who look up to him and watch what he does and try to emulate it. When you lose people like that, it's brain drain from the industry, and it hurts everybody. All boats sink at that point.
Right, but nothing could keep him here.
Yeah. Oh, no, I know. Like, you can't, no amount of money.
He had a goal in mind when he started alpha dogging the shit out of Naughty Dog and forcing, most of the people that made the original Uncharted's out.
Yeah.
And, clearly he has stepped on a lot of fingers on the way to where he was. Yeah. And that's true of anybody.
That's just the way it is, unfortunately.
But he always wanted, there was always a sense of, like, he doesn't care who he pisses off in the video game industry because he doesn't intend to stay here forever.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. That's disappointing to hear, but it is also very true. So.
But, again, like you say, there's a lot of people like that. But, again, when the rubber hit the road, Neil Druckmann turned out to have the skill and the talent to back it up in that other medium.
Absolutely.
And,
and a lot of people don't. Let's just be honest. A lot of people think they do, and they do not.
Yeah. 100%.
They think it's easy. They're like, oh, if I can make a game, I could definitely transition to just storytelling. Nope, it is not that easy.
It's a very different beast.
It really is.
And the other way around, too.
Yeah.
Like, you can't jump from TV and movies straight to game.
Movie directors can't just jump in and direct a game either. That's just the way it is. You have to respect the medium. So let's actually check in with chat, because you guys are back in the TriCaster, back in the show. Let's see what you guys are saying about this. Let me get you guys full screen there. Retro Modern Gamer, George Lucas had that with Star Wars and Disney throughout his scripts. Yeah.
I mean,
I don't know if that's...
They used a lot of stuff that was in his draft of Episode 1. The girl, her name was different in his draft, but Luke being a hermit, like a lot of that a lot of the premise, like the starting point of the sequel trilogy, does come from him. Mm-hmm. Also, one of the reasons they threw most of his scripts out is because at the time, no one remembers this because everyone got so caught up in the hatred of the sequels. Everyone hated George Lucas's prequels and thought that he'd ruin the entire franchise, and this was our only chance to bring Star Wars back, which is exactly what everybody said the whole time Force Awakens came out, which is why it made $2 billion.
Yeah.
So... yeah, like maybe now that seems ridiculous to have done that with George's stories, but like at the time, like he sold that franchise, he was tired of being yelled at.
Yeah.
Like, because people were so nasty to him, and now it just happened again, because no one's mad about the quality of the stories or the movies of Star Wars. They're mad that it's new.
Yeah.
They're mad that it's not what they're familiar with, and they're old and sad now, and the space adventure story with the Star Wizards doesn't make them happy like it did when they were 8, and they think it's the movie's fault and not their fault, which is because they have no emotional intelligence.
Yep.
Anyway,
says, say, suffer and succotash.
Suffer and succotash.
That's great.
I gotta get that. My dad wrote a letter to Chuck Jones when I was very young, and it took him like 2 years to respond because the letter got lost or something.
Oh.
And he finally wrote back, and as a kind of an apology for it taking so long, he drew, it's like this big, and it's Daffy Duck.
Wow.
It's Bugs Bunny at a drafting table writing Dear David, my dad's name, like writing Dear David, like writing the letter that Chuck Jones, and Daffy Duck is standing over his shoulder going, all I can say is if I ever answered letters, I'd answer them sooner than this.
Wow.
It's a framed whole thing with the letter and a
that's
original
incredible
Chuck Jones for that. And I don't know where it is. It's in a storage. It's in storage somewhere.
Okay.
I know it's somewhere. It was in the old house.
Wow.
But I keep thinking I got to go find that.
Cinetike says, watching this B-roll, The Last of Us Part 2 was really something.
It really
was.
It really was.
It still is.
Like, it was astounding to see that on a PS4 at the time.
That was another one of those games that we talked about on...
It was the pinnacle of that hardware.
Yeah.
Like, it's incredible they pulled it out of that.
It's one of those games that we talked about on GameFace, and you and I both gushed over it. And then you see people in the chat trying to, like, slag it. And you're just like, what? Like,
no.
It's just bizarre how people are. Could Bruce Staley come back? Nolan Bozo's
I don't think he ever would. Yeah. I mean, I know Neil was the main problem for him, but like the whole company kind of treated him. I mean, they make their choice over him or Neil, and I don't think he would want to be involved again. But I don't know Bruce at all.
Sanuku says, "I am."
If they offer him enough money, fuck it, go get paid.
Right?
Like, I would.
Yeah. Sanuku says he's convinced the Decima engine is among the best, which is the engine for Death Stranding.
It's hard to argue with some of what we've seen out of Death Stranding.
We're about to talk about what was just shown at South by Southwest.
Death Stranding and Horizon, like they've done some amazing stuff with those.
Seriously. J. Reed Vic 7, between Kojima, Ken Levine, and now Druckmann, seems like a lot of people at the top levels would rather do TV film because it's an easier life community than gaming. It is.
Somewhat, yeah.
I mean, I don't know if the community's any easier, but...
I don't know about that. Also, Kojima, has always wanted to be a movie. I mean,
he's not made it a secret.
There's never been a secret to that.
He hasn't hid that from anybody.
He doesn't even. I don't think he really even cares that much about video games.
Yeah.
And especially when you hear some of the stories about Metal Gear Solid 1, where he basically wrote the script and said, make a gameplay sequence where this happens.
Yeah.
And it was the programmer's problem to that's why that game is just a bunch of mini games connected by story sequences.
Yeah.
Because he's make a sequence where you have to beat a tank. And they're like, okay. Like, so we'll do a little tank battle. Like, there you go.
I mean,
Like,
Split Fiction's a lot like that.
Yeah.
Where it's just like one kind of set piece just snapped together one after the other.
oh, yeah. I think there was less cynicism with Split Fiction.
Yeah, yeah. Nolan Bozo Zone says Levine tried to do movies. I didn't know that.
Yeah, there was I remember that. I don't remember the specifics of it, but I remember there was sort of a head fake in that direction after Infinity.
I actually didn't know that. Interesting. So anyway, there you go. Last of Us Part 3. What percentage would you put at this point of it happening with Neil?
I mean, if things keep going the way they're going for Neil, 5%.
I'd go a little higher, like 25 probably, but I'm with you. It doesn't look good.
I don't foresee a scenario where Neil doesn't
leave.
It's up to him at this point. If he wants to move on and have a TV or film career, he can.
He's already made all the money. Yeah. It's not about money anymore. He can get richer, but like, he's not that kind of guy, really.
But he wants to do what he wants to do.
Like, he wears sneakers that are like 15 years old.
I think movies are. I think movies are and film. I think storytelling is what he loves more than video games. I think he just ended up in video games.
Because it sucks. Developing video games sucks. Yeah. The one thing everybody asks me, one, they think I make games because nobody thinks that like there's journalists around video games. So my mom tells one of her friends,
there aren't really anymore.
Right. Well, my mom tells one of her friends, Shane works in video games. They're like, oh, he makes video games. That's just what people assume. They don't think that there's any market or industry for people who actually talk about games. They think that everybody that works in the industry actually makes them. And
Sunoku's is calling it people join Kojima on his movie project. Disagree. Neil Druckmann doesn't need to join with Kojima.
Emperor Dread says
Kojima should try to hitch his wagon to Druckmann.
Yeah.
Believe you me. If you put Neil Druckmann and Kojima side by side in a movie-making competition, I assure you Neil Druckmann will win that.
Yeah. But Neil doesn't need more money. He may want more. He just doesn't want his life to suck. So people, even though people assume that I work making games, the other thing they always ask me is like, do you want to make games? And it's no. No, I do not. Like, you work as a journalist for a couple years in this industry, you don't want to be a game developer. If you get to talk to people and do interviews with them and talk with them off camera when the lights aren't on, sitting at a bar with a beer or whatever, they're just like, dude, I can't wait for this to be over. Like, I am so sick of talking about this game. I'm so sick of playing this game. I am sick of looking at this game. Please just release it so I can like have some peace of mind. Like,
it's very rare you run into a game developer who tells you, "Oh, we had a great time making."
Oh, I can't wait to start the next one.
And
I've never heard that.
When they do, it's like doom.
Yeah,
it's like it's the old garage days or something.
Yeah.
It's like Insomniac people have pretty good times making games. It seems like most of the Insomniac people
their crunch isn't abysmal.
Crunch's not terrible, and it's not a bad place to be in general. Like, I didn't have any bad stories from anyone I knew who worked on the first Spider-Man. I imagine they might have a different story about the second one.
Yeah.
But yes, that's one of the reasons that company gets praised
highest
so highly.
employee ratings in the country every year. Yeah.
But usually you talk, everyone's like, no, this sucked. Like, I hated working on this. The positive stories are always from a big change. They're always from a big change where everything is like kind of still like the Respawn guys, I bet, would still have good stories about how much they enjoyed making Modern Warfare 4.
The first
Modern Warfare.
The first
Modern Warfare, Call of Duty 4. Because it was what they wanted to make for like 2 games, and they were finally allowed to do it, and they knew it was going to be good. They knew it.
Yeah.
Yeah,
and
like
they were right.
Like, I always tell a story about how I played Call of Duty 2 for review in their office, and that lunch they were like, "Do you like it? Is it any good? Do you like that?" I'm like, yeah. And when I played Call of Duty Modern Warfare there, in their office, we went to lunch, and they're like, "It's pretty fucking great, isn't it?" Like, they knew they had the best thing ever there.
You watch 5 minutes of that game, you do right away. Jeff Keighley and I were the first journalists to see that game. We went into the basement of Treyarch. They have this awesome theater down there, and it was just Jeff Keighley and I. They're like, we want you to see this because we want you two to put together a plan across game trailers and Spike TV for this game. And we watched 5 minutes of it, and Jeff and I just looked at each other. We're like, dude, is this for real? Like, is this a game? Like, it just blew our, like, anybody.
Oh, yeah.
He saw that game immediately and was like, wow.
That's where I played it, was in that theater.
Yeah.
And at lunch, you come out and you're like, you need to give me a minute.
It's like gather myself.
It's like you're coming back from war. It's just like I wasn't. Yeah. And they're like, we're gonna put you through the. We went to lunch right at the end of the All Gillied Up.
Yeah.
Because they're like, this might be too hard for you.
Yeah.
And it's like, no, I'm fine. And they're like, well, we want you to get through the whole game, so we'll have. They basically made the level designer come in
and help
and do it
if
for
they
me.
needed it. Yeah,
because I got to the very end and I think I messed something up and then I got and died. Like, we'll have him get you past that part, and when you come back from lunch, you'll be on.
You'll
the
be
next
there.
level.
Yeah,
and it's like, so they did that.
Yeah.
But it was, and I was like, turned of course that was the same.
No landmark.
That was the same guy. I can't remember his name now. I should. He has a funny name. The Mac something. He is the same guy who did the Sniper Alley level in Allied Assault that everybody hated. So with 4,000 snipers on the roofs, like that was the same guy. The same guy did the Chernobyl level.
I'm actually not surprised to hear that at all.
No, it absolutely tracks, doesn't it?
So anyway, there you go. That's the latest on The Last of Us, HBO, which is coming up soon. And by the way, I quit watching that trailer that came out this week because I got halfway into it and I'm like, they're showing me everything.
You already played the game.
I know,
what's gonna
but
happen.
I know what's going to happen. I want to see how they're going to represent it in the game. And so I saw, there's the guy from the camp. There's the guy from like the religious sect. I'm like, I don't want to see anymore. And so I just stopped watching it like halfway through. It looks like it's going to be an awesome season.
Yeah. I mean, I'm curious how far they're going to go.
Me too. Where it's going to stop.
How they're going to structure it. Like, clearly Abby's in it. Like,
I think they're going to do a lot more of those episodes that they won awards for, where they just focus on like one character. And
well, we know they're doing
they
the one guy,
and...
the guy who's like weed dispensary they find.
Right.
Like he gets his own episode. Turns out.
I think there'll be more of those this season than there were.
Well,
I think
also,
that's how they're going to get it out to 3 more seasons.
It's also a good way to get 4 seasons out of one game.
That's what I was saying. Yeah, exactly. So anyway, there you go. That's the latest on The Last of Us Part 3, Intergalactic, Neil Druckmann, and Naughty Dog. Next up, we're going to review FragPunk. But before we do that, here's a word from our sponsor, LS Cream. LS Cream is a fine cream liqueur created by fellow gamer and sifter Stevens Charles. It's inspired by an ancestral recipe from Haiti called Cray Mass, and a double gold winner for its original taste at the New York Wine and Spirit International Competition. LS Cream can be enjoyed on the rocks or as a mixer for drinks with its rich blend of fresh cream and neutral grain spirits with notes of coconut, vanilla, cinnamon, and nutmeg. It's great in coffee or to make espresso martinis. To learn more, discover amazing drink recipes, or to track down your own bottle using a handy store locator, head to creamls.com/sifted. That's creamls.com/sifted. That's right, people. Support L to the S to the Cream, LS Cream at creamls.com/sifted. And in fact, they need your support now more than ever because there are these insane tariffs that we're putting on Canada, and LS Cream is from Canada, and that affects us. Like, I don't think people realize all this insane stuff that's happening, how it affects real people. And it is affecting LS Cream, like, drastically. So if you can, please go to creamls.com/sifted. Get yourself a bottle. They're going to need help going through this because basically they're going to chop like all their profit out of their product. It's for no reason. They are our best allies we've ever had. I mean, this is insane what is happening. I don't want to get into it, but it is just bonkers what is happening right now in America. So help LS Cream. They are good people. They are awesome people. Like pretty much every Canadian I have ever met are like the most awesome people you will ever meet. I don't know if there's any Canadians in the chat right now, but I played hockey with dozens of Canadian guys. They are literally the most stand-up people you will ever interact with.
You wouldn't have KOTOR without Canadians.
And Stevens Charles.
You wouldn't have Mass Effect without Canadians.
Yeah.
You wouldn't have Dragon Age without Canadians.
Yeah. And Stevens Charles, the owner of LS Cream, is an awesome guy. He is a good dude. Let's help him through this. Hopefully these tariffs get... I mean, the economy's tanking. Maybe
Wouldn't
somebody
have Assassin's
will wake
Creed
up.
without Canadians.
I hope. But go to creamls.com/sifted. Help out LS Cream if you can. They are getting beat up right now over these tariffs. We'd really appreciate
Space
it.
Marine without Canadians.
I mean, we can go on and on. There's so many great games that have been made in
So
Canada.
many great developers in Canada.
Yeah, absolutely. And you can find bottles locally there. There's a store locator. You can punch in your zip code. They can show you where to go to pick one up, or you can just get it delivered to your house. Go to creamls.com/sifted. All right. It's time to talk about FragPunk. Do you remember this game, Matt?
Vaguely.
It was shown off, I believe, in one of Microsoft's direct presentations, and it was kind of one of the bigger things from the presentation. People really latched onto it. It is a free-to-play 5 versus 5 hero shooter, but it's objective based. I guess the thing I would say is that before I played this, I thought it was going to be a lot more unique than it really is. And I think maybe a lot of people are going to feel that way too when they play it, because it does show very well in trailers. And its USP, its unique selling proposition, is before every round, you get to select cards. And basically the cards are just buffs when it comes down to it. And how it works is everybody on your team, all 5 players, get to vote on which cards you're going to use for that round. And you have X number of votes that you can place. And there's 3 cards up between each round you can try to get, and you have to be strategic. Sometimes they'll put 3 random cards up there, and you don't want any of them, and so nobody votes on any of the cards. But that means that you have more votes for the next round. So maybe next round, because you didn't pick a card for the first round, now maybe you can pick 2 cards for the second round, and maybe you're happy with that because the cards that they gave you as options were cards that you actually want to play for the match. So that is the unique sort of twist on it. I think it sounds more unique than it actually is when you start playing it, though. There are 13 playable characters. They're called Lancers in this game. You're seeing them right now in this sped-up footage. 5 of them are unlocked when you first boot up the game. Each character has 2 special abilities and then a special attack, and those are performed with the shoulder button. So one ability is on RB, one ability is on LB, and then your special attacks are performed by squeezing them both. Now, one thing I should mention here, you're seeing in the upper third there that it's for PlayStation 5, Xbox Series, and PC. It was all 3 versions were supposed to come out this month. However, at the last minute, they delayed the console versions. The PlayStation 5 and Xbox Series versions are delayed indefinitely. We don't have a hard date for that yet, but it launched this week on PC. Again, don't forget that this is a free-to-play game. You can go and download it right now, or after I'm finished talking with it, if it's something that you sound like you're interested in. It has all the free-to-play accoutrements. It has emotes. It has stickers. It has a battle pass with like 60 unlocks. There's a store that you can go to where you can just pay for the battle pass if you want to, or you can pay for tons of cosmetics. This is one of those games that earns its money from selling battle passes and things that you can attach to all the characters and the heroes in the game. So I talked about the cards. They're called shard cards. There were 40 unlocked. I unlocked 40 of them after playing the game for like 3 or 4 hours. I don't even know how many I've unlocked at this point. The last time I checked, I had unlocked 40. There is like 169 or something in total different cards. And they really do run the gamut as far as what they can do. As far as modes are concerned, there's the mode that everybody plays is called Standard Shard Battle. And that's what I was just describing. And that right now you're seeing selecting the cards before a round. So I'm going to pause this so I can talk through it real quick. So before every round, they give you 3 options for cards. And you can see in the top there, those diamonds with the gold. Those are when someone has voted for them. So as a team, you're voting on the cards. Now, once somebody puts a vote on something, a lot of times the rest of the team is like, yeah, I like that. And so one diamond will fill up, and then quickly all the other ones do. That happened for Ironhead right there. Somebody selected it, and I was like, yeah, I like Ironhead because that means that headshots don't do more damage. Everybody votes on it. Then you start looking at some of the other cards. Regenerative Therapy, like regain hit points slowly. That sounds pretty good, but it's a fast-paced game. Probably not. People didn't vote for it. So they go away. You have Ironhead for this round. Next round, if people didn't vote on this round, they will have their votes plus the votes for that round, which gives them more buying power for the cards. So you could conceivably sit and not vote, and then in the last couple rounds, you have so many votes that you can just choose what cards you want. So there's a lot of strategy in how you actually choose the cards and play the cards in the game. And I'll say this too, most of the cards, not all, but most of the cards, you do feel the difference. Here are the weapons. I think there's 9 different categories. They're all pretty traditional, what you'd expect in most shooters. You got shotguns, submachine guns, assault rifles, sniper or bolt action rifles, light machine guns, and you have all your pistols, and you have a couple melee weapons that you can choose from. Pretty traditional, which is kind of surprising, honestly, because this game doesn't look like it would be a traditional shooter with the art style and everything. But it actually does play like pretty much every other shooter as far as just when you have a gun in your hand and what you do with that gun. So they said there's Standard Shard Battle. It is a round-based mode, and the objective is to pick this thing up, carry it to this place, put it down, and then defend it. And just like every objective-based first-person shooter, you hardly ever win matches by actually accomplishing the objective. Probably 9 out of 10 matches that I played of this, the match ended because you killed the other team. And
am I crazy, or does this look real slow?
It is. So I was going to get to that. It is very slow. Like, you think you're like walking, but you're sprinting. And
like, I did not think this was going to be this slow from all that
the way they cut the trailers together
yeah.
and everything, it doesn't feel that way. Then you start playing, and it is very slow. You walk slowly. The sprint feels like the walk from Call of Duty.
Yeah, that's what it looks like.
And I think that's... So, I'll say this. When I first started playing it, I was like, wow, this thing's really slow. But the more time I spent with it, you acclimate to it, and you get used to it, and you realize that, like, it's okay. Because everybody's moving slow. And the way the maps are, these maps are really tight. They're not really big, so you're running into people constantly. If you were able to sprint as fast as you do in Call of Duty, you would be in the mosh in like 3 seconds after you spawn. So I don't know if that's part of it, but you're absolutely right, Matt. It is way slow compared to most first-person shooters on the market in 2025. So again, Shard Battle is the round-based mode. You take the object to the spot, you drop it down, then you defend it. It never actually works out that way. There is also a team deathmatch mode, which in a game like this doesn't work all that well. And then there was another team deathmatch where it was just knives. And then there's another mode called Outbreak, where one team plays as humans, the other team basically plays as zombies. And as you kill players on the other team, they're turned into zombies until it's one versus like the whole rest of the roster that's playing the game. But here's the thing. If you play the standard mode, which uses the cards, it mixes in all that other stuff on its own. Like, at the end, like on the 5th round of some matches, it will switch to the Outbreak, where one team's playing as zombies, the other team's playing as humans. Sometimes it will switch to some of the other variants, like you'll start a round and everybody just has knives. So I would just stick with the standard mode, because ultimately you end up exposed to pretty much all the options that the game has to offer. And that's what I ended up playing after a while once I kind of figured it out. You can play every mode, PvP, 5v5, or you can play PvE if you just want to train against a computer where it's a little bit easier. You can switch your character and your loadout whenever you want. So you can spawn, you can be like, oh, I'm sick of this character. You just hit the back button and it brings up the interface. You can choose your playable character and the loadout right there. And you don't even have to respawn and die and respawn. Like, immediately it switches to that character and the loadout. Unless you use a specific card, though, you can't choose 2 of the same character in a team. And I'll say this, I never really found the synergy in this game where you have like a heavy that can do this thing that sets it up for the light guy with the submachine gun. Like, there's not a lot of teamwork involved in this where you feel like you need somebody from every class on your roster to be competitive or things like that. I feel like the characters in general in this are balanced pretty well. So if you just choose whoever the hell you want, even if you have multiples of the same character, like, you can still win. And the thing that helps with that too is that, as I said, each character has 3 special attacks. They have 2 regular specials and then an ultimate if you squeeze the shoulder buttons together. And between that, like, pretty much every character can take out any other character in this game. There's a couple snipers in it that feel maybe a little OP, and you'll start seeing in the B-roll here sometimes where people just get one shot on you and kill you. And that can be a little startling. But for the most part, I feel like the characters that are in there so far are pretty well balanced. Keeping in mind that one thing I will say is, in my time playing this, I only ever unlocked 1 character, ultimately. So the character unlocks are really slow. The gun unlocks, they're all pretty much unlocked from the beginning, which is cool. For a game like this, it's nice to be able to pick your loadout. But as far as characters are concerned, you have to really work for them in this. And the idea is they want you to pay for the new characters. It's the League of Legends model, basically. It'll be interesting to see if they start doing the League of Legends thing where they let you try out the characters for a while and then make you pay for them if you want them. I don't know. That seems to have worked out well for Riot and League of Legends. We'll see if they bring it over to this. But I will say, like, the character that you choose does make a huge difference in this game because their abilities, one, are so disparate and different, but also because they're extremely powerful. Like, using your abilities correctly can turn the tide of a match. The other thing I would say, too, is if I had to compare this to another shooter, Valorant is probably the one that resembles the most. The loadouts, kind of the being able to pick your loadout before each match, being able to pick the loadout in the middle of a match. That's all Counter-Strike stuff that made it over into Valorant, that's now made it over into this. Like, the special attacks in this really remind me of Valorant. Valorant has, like, tornadoes that look like a cartoon tornado that just kind of moves across the map. It almost looks bad, but it kind of has its own art style. This game is kind of like that, too. Every once in a while, you'll see an attack, you're like, really? Is that what your attack is? But then you start using it more and more, you start to understand its effectiveness and how it works. And they start to make a lot more sense over time. So some of the cards, just to give you an idea of all the cards that you have, there's a card that swaps defenders and attackers, because in every match, one team's an attacker, one's a defender. You can get a card that will swap that. So if you're playing a defender and you play that card, all of a sudden you're the attacker. And on certain maps, that makes a big difference. It's much easier to attack than to defend on certain maps. So there's that. There's no healing for enemies, no doors in the level. Team can have multiples of a Lancer. Like I said earlier, being able to have multiple characters on the same team. Max health up, movement speed up, deploy 2 combat bots that follow you around. Enemy heads are bigger to make it easier for headshots. You can load all your ammo into one mag. You can get double jumps and on and on and on. Like I said, there's 169 cards in this already. And my guess is DLC, it's going to be characters, it's going to be cards. So there is a pathway for this game to have expansions until the end of time, pretty much. And some of
it will not.
It will not. It will not. And here's one thing that I thought was cool is that some of the cards convinced me to try different things. So if you remember in Call of Duty, you could get this thing called Dragon's Breath that you installed on a shotgun, and it gave you like flaming shotgun rounds. Well, it's become like a thing in games now. And so that was a Dragon's Breath shotgun card in this. And I saw that, and we all voted. The card was enacted for the round, and I immediately went and switched to a shotgun. And it made me try a shotgun for the first time since I've been playing the game. So the cards can actually motivate you to try out new things, form new strategies, and I think that's pretty cool. Like, there aren't a lot of games that I play them, shooters, that I play them for a long time, and then, like, one match, all of a sudden, I'm like, hey, I'm going to try the shotgun. Like, you just kind of figure out what weapons you like. This game will convince you to try some stuff that maybe is outside of your comfort zone. There's no downs, there's no reviving, so when you die, you're dead. They do show, you'll see here I get headshotted. They do show the death, so you can figure out where they were and stuff like that. But otherwise, there's no downs or revives. People can't save you once you've been dropped. Generally, the gameplay feels good. I do feel like the recoil on weapons is a little extreme at times, and unlike with games like Call of Duty where you can attach a bunch of stuff to your weapon to make the recoil lower, there's nothing like that in this. There's no attachments attaching to guns. Maybe that comes later, but as of right now, there's none of that stuff. And so you kind of have to pick an armament, a weapon that you like, and then try it out and hope that it actually works the way you think it does out in the field. So, as you mentioned, running feels slow, not just compared to Call of Duty, compared to pretty much every shot. Climbing and clambering in this is a joke. Don't even bother trying. Unless it's blatantly obvious that a hop is going to get you up over something, don't even try. There's no climbing. Like, they won't use their hands to pull themselves up. Like, you can jump up something that's like a foot or two tall. Other than that, you can't. And it takes a while to get used to that and learn that. At least it did for me anyway. I always was wondering, am I going to be able to climb that or not? And then I'd try, and no. That's pretty much how it worked out every time. And that's pretty much it. It is a free-to-play shooter. There's no campaign. All the modes are multiplayer modes. Again, it is 5-on-5. Again, there's more modes in this, but if you play the standard, you end up trying out all the other stuff. Like, this isn't the zombies mode, but this is like the 5th round of a match or whatever. Like, now we're going to play a round of zombies. And you can see there's like the zombies in Call of Duty. They have the vending machines. They'll spit out random weapons. But generally, I thought the gunplay felt pretty good in this, minus the recoil. The guns feel really good. The sound, I think, is a big part of that. Every weapon has a good like subwoofer kick to it that makes you really feel it. And its enemies aren't bullet sponges. One headshot can take them out. Like, you saw how quickly I just killed that person right there. It's like bang, 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 and they're dead. So the time to kill, TTK in this, maybe even is lower than Call of Duty, honestly. Because there were times where I got headshotted.
It's pretty ridiculous considering how long it takes you to run to where the action is.
You're right. There was times where I got headshotted by like an SMG and died with one headshot from an SMG. So you don't mess around in this. You got to be very careful. You can also sabotage yourself with your own abilities. Like, they just shot that little drone out of my hand and killed me by shooting the drone. there is like emergent stuff that happens in this, things that catch you off guard. You're like, oh, like I didn't think that was going to happen, or I didn't think this could happen. There's a lot of that in this game, and I think that is one thing that maybe gives some shooters a leg up on all the others. But to your point,
no one will ever know.
You're right. To your point, Matt, like, how long is this game going to last?
like a year if it's lucky.
Probably. Like, this is a good game. Like, don't get me wrong.
However long the contracts take to run out.
Probably. Like, I play all these. You don't, but I do. I play all these free to play, like the gacha game. I play them all, and it is really hard to figure out like what is going to make one hit over another, because they all try something different. They all have their USP. They're one little thing that they do differently. Obviously, in this one, it's the cards that you play before each round. They give you buffs. But after playing it for a while, you're like, couldn't I just assign buffs to like my character and choose 2 per round? Like, you're splitting hairs at this point. It's becoming really hard.
It's like, hey, what if you had upgrades, but you had to rely on everyone else first,
right,
to vote for it?
That's what it
is.
is.
No, I don't care what they want.
But that's where we're at with these games, Matt. Is they're struggling to find this thing, that sets it apart from all the others. Even Ubisoft, with all its resources, can't do it. X-Defiance going away, like. The other thing I would say, too, is
so many of them just feel like somebody was put on the spot in a boardroom meeting and had to come up with something, and that's what they had.
Yeah.
It's like, all right, we'll do that.
And I've played a couple shooters like
it feels like a big waste of some really good art.
Yeah. The developers who made this are very skilled, for sure. Like, they made a really good game. But again, making a good game is not enough for this.
Yeah, it's not going to get asses in seats.
Yeah, it's like, how do you pull someone away from Fortnite? How do you do it?
Not with this.
You're right. With this, it's not going to work. So it's funny. Like, this game, when it was first announced, was doing big numbers on SIFTD. People were into it.
Yeah, well, it makes a good impression with the art style and the characters. I mean, they all look good. And then, like, it really doesn't play the way you think that art is and that trailer is going to make it play.
Or the character intros.
No.
There are these flashy, crazy, really fast, like, action things. And you get out and play it. It's way more deliberate than you think it's going to be.
It's like if you met someone who's like super cool and has like this crazy style and every like custom clothes and all this stuff, and they have all that, and like they're a CPA.
Yeah.
It's just like, what?
Well, put it this way,
yeah.
The finals is way better than this. The finals is...
Well, I don't know if there's a better gimmick in shooters than everything can be destroyed.
Right.
Like, that, it's hard to beat that.
It's not even just that. It's like the weapons that shoot the crazy gel that can help you block passageways, or then you can just blow up the floor and get in anyway. Like,
because it lets you like design all your weapons around the idea that you can destroy stuff. It's like, okay, we can block this. All right, well, I can just blow the thing around it up, so it doesn't matter you blocked it. Like, I can knock the floor out from under you. I can knock the floor out from under myself and like get away from you that way. And like, it's just, so like there's a lot of possibilities there. What's the possibility space for the card thing?
You're gonna give the other two a big head.
I want this thing, and everyone voted against it, so I don't get it.
Yeah.
Like, is that a draw?
I don't think it is. And
like the draw here would be, arguably the characters, but they don't really seem to be.
Well, it's a first-person game, so you don't see your character all that much.
Well, you see the other characters because they throw that huge character portrait up to block your whole right side of your screen every time something happens. Like, that's a very weird choice.
Yeah.
In a game where visual confirmation is kind of key.
Yeah, it really is.
I don't know. Again, it feels like you had a pretty cool cast. You could have made like a good game. This doesn't feel like they were made for this game.
I agree.
Like they were either made for like some kind of Jet Set Radio spin-off, or like a more character oriented shooter where their characters like shine more.
Yeah.
Like, because it doesn't feel like their differences and who they are really matter in this.
No, you're right. As far as like their personalities and things like that, they don't necessarily tie into what they do. Like the girl who looks like the singer from Slowdive, she's like the poison character. Right. She's like, okay.
One else is like, I don't know, like, and maybe this introduces a whole different balance thing, but it's not like, a lot of the other character shooters do it. Those characters all look like they'd move at different speeds.
But they don't. They all move at the same speed. You're right, actually. That's a good point. That all the characters pretty much move at the same speed in this game. Yeah. There's not a huge disparity.
And I feel like speed being related to who you pick is sort of an expected thing now.
Yeah. And what I was getting at with mentioning
Call of Duty
finals,
does that. It's not like everybody's stuck at the same movement speed.
Well, actually, I think they are in Call of Duty.
There's no there was never any kind of weigh you down with enough gear and you run slower.
That's not a part of it. No. Call of Duty's just run as fast as you can and build a game that can hopefully keep up with it. Pretty much, that's where Call of Duty is at this point. And the reason I mentioned the finals is because one, it's great and I love it, but two, it's struggling and it is better than this game. So when I look at these games, usually what I do is I say it better be better than the finals. Because the finals is really good, and no one's playing it, and nobody cares, and so why are they going to care about this one? And I think the only way they would care is if they find a character that they really like. And, to your point, Matt, the characters in this are pretty strong as far as artistically, how they're designed and things like that. They're visually appealing. It's only when you start playing with them.
Just use shotguns.
Right.
And
or a
submachine gun. It's I know, I see they have their own little abilities.
The one character has her own sci-fi sniper rifle, but it's
everyone's
special.
I this is what my crazy wall looks like that I can generate. It's all right, great,
yeah. Do you have any questions about this game? You guys aren't big shooter fans, so probably not. But I'll just check just to be sure, just in case.
Yeah, the AI voices is a problem too.
There's AI voices in the game.
They're all AI voices.
I didn't know that. Yeah. I actually didn't know that. Although now that I think about it, yeah.
Yeah, once you hear it, it's like, oh,
then you know. Yeah.
Sometimes you run into that on YouTube now too. It was like a very socially conscious video, but at a certain point they say AI doesn't get inflection very well, so sometimes they'll get and it's funny because sometimes pauses, but also pronunciation of a word where it's a homophone, it's a homonym, but it's pronounced differently depending on whether it's a noun or an adverb or whatever, something like that. And the AI will get it wrong because syntax is hard for AI voiceover. And the one thing I love is one of the ways to disguise that is to use a British AI voice.
Oh,
because a lot of Americans, when they hear a British AI voice pronounce a word wrong, they just assume that's the British pronunciation and they're just being weird and British. And it's that's a way to disguise it. If you're trying to sell to dumb Americans, you use a British voice so that any vocal differences they just assume is the accent.
Interesting. So again,
most of online content production has become how do we fool the most people.
I think half of the videos on YouTube at this point are AI.
A lot. I don't think that's an unfair statement.
Voiceover. Yeah, because you have people in India or whatever, they're I don't want to read the script.
Well, and the worst part is I've seen some videos where I'm like, oh, this is interesting. And they look in the comments and I was like, AI voiceover. And they're like, no, it's this guy. He's been doing our voiceover for 13 years. This channel's been around since 2011. And it's just it's crazy. But it's because that guy's been doing that for 13 years. It means his voice has been fed into all these AI generators. And that sounds like him because it is his voice because they stole it.
Because it's plagiarism. Yeah. It sucks.
Ridiculous.
It really is.
It's there's a sleeve company called Dragon Shield that does art sleeves. I don't buy them, but they pop up because I buy their clear matte stuff. And every time one of their artists has a series on sleeves, everyone accuses it being AI, and they have to post a thing that's basically like a explanation behind the scenes thing. No, it's this person. It's their art. They've been doing this art for years. Here's their Instagram. Here's their deviant art. And it's because this person's art is so much like what the AI dipshits want. Their art has just been stolen constantly, and whatever's generated is stealing from their art.
So it looks like they're the ones stealing.
Yeah, exactly. They look like AI because AI has been trained on their art.
On their art. That's awful, man.
There's a certain field of realism and kind of hyper realism in artwork that is preferred by the tech bros because they think that's good art. Mm-hmm. And it's ruined the market for those people because everyone thinks their art is fake. No. Because their art is what all this AI shit was trained on.
It's awful.
It's people's livelihoods have been destroyed because no one believes their art's real anymore. They have to send people videos of them drawing it to prove that they actually drew it. It's crazy.
Sad. Well, FragPunk is available. It is free to play. It's available for PC. We still don't know when the console versions are coming out.
Or if.
Coming out. I think they found a fatal bug in the console versions or whatever.
I wonder. I gotta wonder. I don't know what kind of contracts are in place, what kind of obligations one has in those regards, but it feels like if the PC version doesn't do well enough, it's do you follow up with the console stuff?
Probably not.
Or do you?
They would at that point, I think, though. It probably isn't a good idea, though.
I mean, it just kind of depends whether the money's spent or not.
Right.
You know?
Yeah, if they've already... Yeah, you're right. We'll see. As of right now, it's supposed to come out for PS5 and Xbox Series. We'll see if that actually happens. But you can download it. I don't know if it's on Steam actually, though. I think I had to download it off Epic Games Store.
Yeah, I haven't seen it on Steam. I don't think.
So
I've
maybe
seen it the splash screen comes up on Epic Games Store all the time.
Yeah, which means it probably is an exclusive there. So
someone, I don't remember who it was. Someone in the chat noted that a bunch of influencers got paid to play this game and promote it. And one of the death knells of these kinds of games is once those promotions are over, none of the influencers kept playing it.
Once they weren't paid anymore. Yeah. Yep. That's usually a bad sign. I'll be honest with you.
It says it is on Steam.
It is on Steam?
There are 80K playing on Steam, so it's not a total failure.
Okay. That's good. I mean, I had no problems getting games at all. Like, they're just, like, instantaneous. Netcode was great, too. And
they are getting promoted. I have definitely... FragPunk has popped through my eyeballs several times in the last several weeks.
Yeah.
Like, not that I care.
Yeah.
But like,
so there's some marketing push.
I definitely noticed it being pushed, so it's not being sent to die, at least.
Yeah, I mean, again, it resonated with sifters. Like, on the site, it did very, very well. I was surprised by it. So that's a big reason why we're talking about it here on GameFace. Like, what you guys do on the site matters. It influences
It does have
content.
a better name than the finals.
Agreed. It does. And you're right. That is one of the big Achilles heels of the finals is its name. What does that tell you?
Nothing.
FragPunk does.
It sounds like I'm about to sit down and take a Scantron test. That's what it sounds like.
Fill in the bubbles. Anyway, there you go. That is FragPunk. It's available for PC. It is free to play. If you like what you saw, download it and give it a go. I would say the monetization was not skeevy. Like, I didn't feel like they were constantly pushing stuff in my face or, like, popping up flash screens and making me accidentally go to the store like some of these games do.
Like Star Wars.
Yeah. So they're pretty cool with the monetization. They're not beating you over the head with it, which I appreciate. So there you go. That's FragPunk, again, available for PC right now. Next up, we're going to talk about Suikoden I and II Remaster. I actually did not get a chance to play this, but Matt has been playing. In fact, Matt, you've been playing the living crap out of this, right?
Well, I mean, yeah, I finished the first one. And I started the second one.
Which I have never finished the first Suikoden. In my life, I never have. I finished the second one.
I probably finished the first Suikoden 5 or 6 times.
Wow. How long is it?
It's like 15 hours.
Okay. It's not too long then.
You can do literally, you can 100% full everything playthrough in 15, 20 hours.
Okay.
Easy. It's a very short JRPG, even for the time.
Yep.
Suikoden 2 is much more robust. The thing about Suikoden 1 and 2 is, like, Suikoden 2 is phenomenal. Suikoden 2 is, for my money...
It's one of the best JRPGs I've played.
It's the best JRPG on the PS1, bar none. It would make my top 20 games of all time. I'm not sure exactly where, but I guarantee it would be
fit in there somewhere.
Suikoden 1 is not nearly as good. Suikoden 1 is good, but it's kind of a dry run for this one. And it's sort of a little primitive in places. They've improved a couple things in it. The inventory management is better they've done a lot of quality of life stuff on these remasters, which I definitely appreciate. Most prominently in 1. The way the inventory works in Suikoden 1 is every character has their own inventory, and there are 108 characters. Like, there's 108 stars of Destiny. Not everyone can be put in your party, so it's like probably more like 50 can be put. But so whoever's got room in their inventory just gets the items from monsters you kill. And so there was a thing where it had to be in your inventory to equip it in the original game. In this one, you can pick the character you want to equip something and just hit left and right on the D-pad and scroll through everybody else in the party, and just if they have it in their inventory, you can equip it. You can even equip it off them if they already have it equipped. Like, you can swap back and forth.
Such a simple thing that makes a huge difference.
Same thing with the runes. Runes are basically magic, and you have to equip them to each character if they don't already have one equipped, and you can have to remove. They only have one, so you have to remove but now you can remove and equip from anyone's inventory, and if you equip one to someone who already has one that's a removable rune, it will just swap it and put it back in the inventory the old one was in. It's much more user-friendly in that regard. A lot of things like that. The second game, one of the biggest complaints about the second game is that there is a character in it from the first game named Clive, and he's not one of the 108 stars of Destiny in the second game, but to see him and do his side quest, you have to get to him by a certain hour mark in the game. Like, I didn't know that. I can't remember what. I think it's 10 hours. But basically, you got to kind of speed run Suikoden 2 to see Clive.
I didn't know this actually.
I have done it before. I did it in my second playthrough back in the day. They have now. There's an option in this now that they added after the community complained about it when it wasn't mentioned in one of the more recent. Like a couple months ago.
Wow.
Like they showed it and they didn't mention it and was like, did you have an option for Clive to not be on a fucking timer? And they're like, that's a good point. So now there is an option to remove the timer from the Clive side quest.
Oh, that's
Suikoden
cool.
2, which is very cool.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of they didn't like. It's not like they didn't do the thing where like, you know, the Final Fantasy's like, oh, you can just like speed the battles up crazy and like cheat all your way. That stuff isn't in here really.
You don't need to though.
You don't need to. They're very easy games.
Also, the battles in this are very fast. Like that's
Very
one
fast.
thing I like about
And
Suikoden 2.
you can even speed them up further. So you have a double speed option, and then there's a character in both games named Stallion, who's an elf who's has super speed, basically Quicksilver from the X-Men. And if he's in your party, you have 4 times battle speed if you want, and he makes you run double fast on the world map. Mm-hmm. Here's the thing: in this one, if you ever get into a fight with Stallion, you get that 4 times speed option forever.
Oh,
Even if you
wow.
take him out of the party.
Really?
So before you had to have him in a party, and that was partly a problem because Stallion's not great. He's got the speed, but he's not a very great fighter. Mm-hmm. So now you just have to use him once, and now you get that bonus for the rest of the game. It's just stuff like that, all a little sprinkled through the game, where I'm like, oh yeah,
Nice.
that's great. Hey, I didn't even think of that. That was a great idea. Well, good work, man. Stuff like that.
Yeah.
So the thing is, Suikoden 1 is not nearly as good as Suikoden 2, but almost every Suikoden fan is going to tell you really should play Suikoden 1 first because A, it's pretty sure it's like 15 hours. Mm-hmm. Use a guide if you want to get all the 100 days. Because a bunch of characters from the first game show up in the second game. The events of the second game are a direct result of what happens in the first game. They are very connected. They're in the same part of the world. The kingdom that falls, the empire that basically falls apart in the first game, the fallout of that is why the events of the second game are happening. Mm-hmm. Your main character shows up in Suikoden 2 as a recruitable character, so you've got both your main character from the first game and your main character second game fight together, and he carries a bunch of characters from the first game carry over levels and weapon upgrades.
Really? So it
and
remembers
armor.
it with from your save.
You import your save.
Oh, interesting.
And so in the original PS1 games, the last save you made in the final dungeon of Suikoden 1 could be imported to Suikoden 2. To do that, in Suikoden 2, on this collection, after the credits roll of Suikoden 1, you can make a clear save that the Suikoden 2 will then pull
pick
from.
up on it.
So
that's
cool. Little more clear on that.
Yeah.
I don't know. One of the most famous glitches in Suikoden 2 was that when your character's name in the first game, the canon name is Tyr McDole. Okay. I don't know why they're Scottish.
Yeah.
But so in the Suikoden 2, the character's name is default McDole because it doesn't know what you named your first character.
Right,
But there's a glitch in the it's not in the PAL version of it. In the North American version, there's a glitch that for some reason just takes the first letter of your first name you named him in the first game and adds it to McDole. So if you named your character like Shane, your character imported in Suikoden 2 on the PS1 would be Sukdol.
Okay.
Or if you named him Tyr, which is his canon name, his name would be Tukdol.
Tukdol.
So there, for a long time, it was like, name your Suikoden 1 character something that starts with M. So it'll be McDole. I believe they have fixed that.
Okay.
But I'm not sure. They have retranslated everything. It is not an amazing translation, but it is better. It's not full of like weird errors and kind of strange misspellings and like sort of those lines from that era where you're like, I think I see what they were trying to say, but I don't think they understood what they were saying, kind of thing. Little like thing like for a long time it was very confusing that there's certain items that only certain types of characters can use, and only the kobolds, who are like dog characters, could use necklaces in the first game. And everyone's like, why?
Yeah, that's weird.
Because that should have been translated as collars.
Oh, right.
Because they're dogs. So in this new one, they are collars.
Okay.
So it makes a lot more sense.
It's funny the stuff that they've changed.
They have changed in the original game. They didn't translate the name of the money correctly. In the original English translation, it's called bits. And in all the subsequent Suikoden games, they use the name of the money is Potch, which I think is one of the worst money names in all of JRPGdom. I just think I don't like how that word feels in my mouth. Like, it sounds like some kind of middle school, like, it's like, dude, did you just potch? Like it just sounds I just don't like saying it.
Faradol says back when localization was done by 3 people in a basement.
Pretty much.
Yep.
This is from the era of the Symphony of the Night. It's the same generation as what is a man, a miserable pile of secrets.
Now, Matt, to me, what I remember of this game, this looks so much better. But
it does.
Was this actually did they do a version of this before?
No.
So this is the first time they've up-resed
This is the first up-res of this game.
It looks great.
So they've redone all the backgrounds and all the everything except the character sprites have been redone in basically new graphics, new HD. The character sprites are definitely touched up, but they are still sprites. This is Suikoden 2. Oh God, the character portraits are so much better. Like, it's amazing.
Yeah,
everything. The upgrade is very tangible.
Yeah.
The character sprites look better on this. I think they look a little, just a touch too low res on Suikoden 1, but there's not much you could have done without messing with it.
Yeah.
Also, you can run diagonally now. You couldn't do that before. That's just what you're doing right now, and that is a miracle right there.
That's hilarious.
And the crazy thing is, there are people who hate that, and there is a mod already on the PC version to remove diagonal movement, which is like, what is wrong with you? I don't.
Faradol says she was one of the 3 people in the basement.
Yeah, she used to do that for Capcom.
Wow. That's great.
Faradol translated a couple of the Street Fighter win quotes.
Wow. That's great. How much is this collection? And it's 50. Available for everything.
It's on everything. It's $50.
Yeah. That's fair.
It's for the amount of work done and the amount of care put into it. I think it is pretty fair.
Yeah.
These are 2 of the best JRPGs of all time.
Suikoden 2 is one of my favorites.
Suikoden 2 is one of my favorite games of all time. Period.
Notice right there,
question.
the flying birds thing that I talk about all the time.
Yeah.
Even way back when, they had the flying birds.
Oh, you had to put the flying birds in.
Birds that fly away when you run up.
One of the tropes that...
There they come. And there they go.
Yeah. And also, scaring birds, and also one of the tropes that JRPGs picked up on earlier, before almost any other trope, was the Hitchcock staple of birds in flight mean doom.
Oh, right.
Birds in flight mean chaos.
Yeah.
And like... You see that in anime a lot too. Like one of the cicadas stop chirping and all the everything flies off and it's like, oh, shit's going down.
Look at all those sprites on that screen right there. I mean,
you got 108 people. You got to get everybody in.
It's pretty crazy.
So Suikoden, for those who don't know, it's based on an old Chinese novel from I think the 1300s called Water Margin. That's what Suikoden means. Water margin is a awkward direct translation of the Chinese word for swamp or bog, which is because the 108 Stars of Destiny warriors from that original novel, their base is in a swamp. Mm-hmm. That's why it's called that. That's the only reason it's called that. This is a complete reworking of the whole thing. It has nothing really to do with the original story, except that it's 108 Stars of Destiny who team up to fight a corrupt government. Yeah. That's basically the original story. The original story is like Robin Hood with a lot more violence and sex.
Yeah.
It was actually there have been eras. I think the Ming Dynasty didn't like the book because it was actually kind of racy. But it's been very influential on things. It's pretty hard to get an actual translation of the original Chinese story, but you can find them. It's obviously not under copyright anymore.
Yeah.
You can dig that up online. But obviously it's very popular in Japan, has been for centuries, and this is probably the most well-known video game adaptation of the idea.
I didn't know it was based on that, actually.
Yeah, and it's that's why everyone thinks, oh, because Suikoden, because it's water margin, because you're a thing in a lake. It's like, no, it's just that's the name of the Chinese novel.
Yeah,
literally translated in Japanese. And it's just the story of in the first one, you are the son of a great general who works for an empire that has been corrupted and is being basically the emperor has gone crazy because he's being manipulated by a witch who seems to be immortal because she controls one of the 27 true runes.
Sounds like Game of Thrones.
There are a little bit. One of the things that is very cool about Suikoden and was very cool back in the day at the time was because of Final Fantasy VII at the time was turning into like this weird Evangelion sort of woe is me depressed protagonist like thing, and which a lot of times were like weird comments on religion. And the Suikoden games remained kind of political thrillers that were very much structured like novels, as opposed to an anime TV series, which is what JRPGs became for a long time until Skies of Arcadia saved us to some degree.
Yeah.
But this was great because it deals with really incredible amounts of political stuff. All the 108 characters do pretty much have their own personalities, and if you get all 108 stars in each game, before the credits, it will tell you a one-sentence outcome of every single character, what happens to all of them, which is pretty cool because it's, oh yeah, that guy, oh yeah, I remember that. You do remember most of them. And there's basically three different forms of combat in the game, which was unusual for the time. You have the standard JRPG battles, which you're doing probably 90% of the time, but in major combat battles, you have big army fights. And in the first game, those are basically paper, rock, scissors like combats, and in the second game, I believe they add some kind of like turn-based movement combat to it, like a little more of that. And then there's duels,
like a strategy RPG.
A little bit, yeah. Like there's a little, like the first game is very much just, do you want to charge, do you want to bow attack, or do you want a magic attack? And it's like a paper, rock, scissors system. And then you add special attacks as you get characters to do other things. You can add special, like your strategist can boost your charge attack, or the thieves can go find out what the enemy's going to do for their next move. Sometimes they fail. The ninjas do that, but they never fail. So if once you get ninjas in on your team, you always know what the enemy is going to do next, and you can always pick the perfect move. And then there's duels, which is usually big plot. Two characters have their big moment. Infinite, ultimate showdown of Ultimate Destiny, and the way that works, you have attack, defend, and special. They've retranslated. Special was like something weirder in the original translation. I'm not sure what it was. But basically, you have to discern the enemy will say a line. They'll say something to you, and you have to figure out from the line what their next move will be. And it's also a paper, rock, scissors thing where like attack beats defend, defend beats special, special beats attack, and you have to kind of guess what they're going to do next. So if they're like, oh, I've gone too far, I need to watch myself, they're probably going to defend. Yeah. That kind of thing. Yeah. Or if they'll be like pretty good, but let me show you what I'm capable of, it's probably going to be their special attack because they're going to show you off their special move. So those are the three basic ways that you fight things, and otherwise it's just sort of going through this whole world. There's a lot of mythology. The 27 true, all magic comes from the runes. There are only 27 true runes in all of Suikoden. Every other form of rune has been chipped off of those true runes. The main character, the first one, has the Soul Eater, which is basically like swallows souls, and no one knows what happens to them after that. The villain wants that because she has the gate rune, half of the gate rune, which lets her move forward and like jump forward in time, like across basically any amount of space. Over the course of all the Suikoden games, we have only seen 18 of the 27 true runes. So there's a lot of work, a lot of space to go.
Well, I'm sure if you've been into games for a while, you've heard about Suikoden 2. It's not just Matt and I. Like, it is known to be a legendary JRPG, and I can just say this upgrade is drastic. Like, I was blown away when I started watching this, remembering what it used to look like. I even went back and looked at videos of the PS1 version and be like, wait a minute, am I remembering this correctly?
It's a wonderful balance between making it look good on a modern screen and still having it look like what you remember. Yeah. The original.
They really hit the happy medium.
And I think the other new collection I think that is about to nail that is the Lunar games that are coming in, I think, August, July. Yeah, there's a Lunar collection of those two games coming in. It looks like they've done very similar. Like they've updated it, but it's a little bit like what they do with the Masterpiece Transformers now, where like everyone's like, oh, like what's the appeal? Like the appeal of those, no one really talks about it. It's not what they promote it as, not what they market it as. The appeal is, it's a version of the character that is the same size in your hand as an adult as the original toys were when you're a kid, and they look like what your imagination tells you they looked like. That's awesome. That's the difference. It's like it's pandering to nostalgia with like an expert like balance. Yeah, it's very well done.
Is this? I mean, I played Suikoden 2 back in the day. It is great.
It is great.
And all the upgrades that you mentioned, and obviously the visual upgrade is gigantic. I know people may be sitting there being like, $50, that seems a lot for a couple JRPGs.
No, it's a bargain.
Oh, yeah. I mean, Suikoden 2 is a big freaking game. Like, it's
huge.
Probably worth $50 even today.
I would pay $50 for Suikoden. I did pay $50 for Suikoden in 1997. And like, Suikoden 1 is 30 years old.
It's hard to believe.
Came out in 95 in Japan. Yeah. And it's still
great.
Pretty good. I mean, it's a quick 15 hours. Obviously, I know what I'm doing in that game because I played it so much. But it was a quick 15 hours. I still enjoyed it. The music's still great. Both of these games are a fantastic example of one of the things I talk about pretty frequently, which is that one of the reasons those old JRPGs work and the modern ones don't so much is because there was no voice acting.
Right.
The music told you how to feel, and you read the text.
Or very simple facial expressions.
Yeah, the little animated, like, abstracted things, and it told you what was happening. The music told you how to feel. You made the dialogue make sense in your head because you were reading it like subtitles.
Yeah.
And it all just worked. It was like, and that's a big thing where you've lost a lot of that today. It's a good example. I was walking around the house humming that fucking overworld theme and the castle theme for this game all week.
Yeah.
And it's great. And it's like, as I saw someone somewhere on social media, they posted it was Gandalf and Frodo hugging at the beginning of Fellowship of the Ring, and they're like, he's like, I have never read these books. I didn't know these characters. I didn't know anything about Lord of the Rings. I watched this movie, and as soon as this conversation was over and they hugged each other, I loved these characters, and I wanted them to be happy with each other, and I wanted them to be friends, and I loved it. How come this movie can do that in 5 minutes, and movies now can't make me care about anything in 2 hours? And my answer to that is Lord of the Rings is fantastic, and Ian McKellen and Elijah Wood are knocking everything out of the park, every single line, but Howard Shore's music is telling you how to feel about those two characters every second of that scene.
Yeah.
And we don't have that anymore because at some point around 2009, it was decided that you should never hear recognizable or memorable music in movies anymore.
Yeah, you're right.
And
I hate that.
And without that, you've lost an emotional component and everyone goes around and it's like, I can't. It was literally a thing for a long time where, like, if you heard it, I can hear the music in the mix, bring it down. And it's like, motherfucker, John Williams is immortal for a reason.
What would Ferris Bueller be like without licensed music? It would be a completely different movie.
See, that's the thing, is that there is an exception for needle drops.
Oh, okay.
Guardians of the Galaxy made it okay to play pre-existing music. Like, you can make it a music video if you want.
A montage.
But having a memorable theme, like Avengers had to fight for that.
I feel like games are doing that now too, Matt. Like,
I think you're right.
As we've been doing our live reviews, I've been paying a lot more attention to music because we need to talk about it in the live reviews. And, like, I don't notice it.
Yeah, 100%. Because I think that's
by design.
It is.
Yeah,
absolutely is. And, like, playing Suikoden was amazing because I'm like,
a tune.
It's catchy.
A melody.
And I mean, I know every single one of these songs by heart because I played them before. But it's like that era, and it's not just because we were younger. I was already in my 20s when this. I was well beyond the golden age of everything, which is 12,
right?
Because that's when you think everything is the best.
Awesome.
Whatever you did and read and played when you were 12.
Yeah.
But I was already. It's like I can remember all that stuff. I mean, I hate Xenogears. But I think it has one of the greatest soundtracks in the history of video games.
I don't think anyone would argue with that one.
Like, I want that game to get an HD 2D remake, not because I like it. I hate it. But I would play it again just to hear all that music again.
Yeah.
Like, that is a lost art. No one, and we're losing all the composers that were, all those composers are aging out and they're retiring.
They're dying.
And like, that's all ending, and there's no one to really pick those batons up anymore.
You're right. Yep. So anyway, there you go. The Suikoden 1 and 2, $50. That's, I played Suikoden 2 back in the day.
Buy the Suikoden collection to save video game music. That's what I'm saying.
Seriously. And it is available for everything, even Switch. So no matter what platform you have.
Apparently it works very well on Switch.
Yeah. Even if you have a PS4 or Xbox One, it's available for everything. If you like what you saw here, give it a go.
The other thing that's great about this version versus the old ones, there's almost no load time.
No, yeah.
Fast traveling is beautiful.
On the PlayStation 1, the load times were brutal. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. You were watching that character run in the corner of the screen a lot more back in the day than you are now, believe you me.
That's true. All right, let's move on to our next topic. We're going to talk about another Japanese game, but one that is far more recent, and that is Death Stranding 2 on the beach. We wondered if the game was going to come out this year. I drafted it on my fantasy team. I think I said I was 60% sure it was going to come out this year. Now I'm 100% sure. They announced the release date is coming out on June 26th for PS5. Still no word on the PC version. I think we're all assuming that's eventually going to happen. And if I remember correctly, Matt, didn't for the first game, didn't the PC version come out pretty quickly afterwards?
No, I think that was a year.
Was it a year? I thought it was maybe a little less.
That came out alongside the director's cut.
Right. That's right. Yeah.
I think it was a year.
Yeah. So the PC version, I think we can all know is coming. We don't know exactly when. They didn't mention it, but they did talk a ton about this game in particular. I never made it far enough to learn about a lot of the revelations in the first game. I know a lot because I read
summaries or whatever.
Is it okay to spoil that game here on GameFace right now, or is it not?
I'm not the person to ask about that because I think it's also stupid. There's no way to spoil it because it's dumb.
Yeah.
Like, who gives a shit?
Well, his
Also,
panel,
if you play this game, it's going to spoil all that for you anyway.
You're right.
So.
His panel had a lot of spoilers and talked about stuff that I didn't know because I never finished the first game.
I mean, how old is that game now? And I include myself in this. If you didn't finish Death Stranding 1 by now, you didn't care enough to bother. I mean, who cares?
Well, I'll share one thing that
if you care that much about spoilers for Death Stranding 1, you should have finished the fucking game by now. And I haven't either, so I'm like right there with you.
The only thing I'm going to spoil is that he was the first baby. The baby that he carries around, he was the first one ever. Yeah. Like, he was what they call BBs.
Yeah.
He was the first BB. I didn't know that.
Okay.
And he shared that in the panel. I was like, okay. Like,
I thought you meant like the first baby ever.
No,
in the history
first
of humanity.
BB, the first one, like those babies that are used to detect the bad guys or whatever. Like, he was the first one.
So, like, nobody knew that? Or
I didn't know that.
No, I mean, like, in the game. Like,
I think if you play...
Because when you find him, they're going to basically destroy him.
Right.
They're like, oh, he's broken. We don't... You know, and Norman Reedus is just like, no, I'll take him.
Yeah.
And it's like, so were they just going to... Guillermo del Toro's character doesn't seem like the kind of person who'd just destroy that. At least you'd keep it as like a scientific curiosity of the first example of that.
They spoiled some stuff about the BB that he carries around, too. And I don't remember all the details of it. I'm not going to...
Like the new one, or...
The one that he carries around. Like,
right.
There's something peculiar about that BB as well. I'm not going to spoil it here. I don't remember everything 100% anyway. But there's a couple things that came out. First of all, it was him, Norman Reedus, Troy Baker, and Woodkid. I don't even know who Woodkid is.
I don't know.
Do you know who he is?
Mm-hmm.
Maybe some artist or something. I don't know. There's an upcoming orchestral tour that's going to be happening across the U.S. It's later in the year. It's called Death Stranding, Strands of Harmony. And they announced the tour dates for that. And then they also announced that in collaboration with Heritage Horologists, Hamilton. Have you heard of that?
What?
Heritage Horologists called Hamilton. It's some organization.
I don't know.
They're creating some limited edition watch for the game.
Hamilton. Okay, I know that as well. I know there's a luxury watchmaker. I don't know.
And it's modeled on the watch that's worn by the character Neil in the game.
Sure.
They also announced that there will be special editions of this. If you want to pay $80, you can play the game 2 days early. If you want to pay an extra $20, you can get 2 days of early access, $10 per day. And if you spend $230, it gets the whole shebang. And the collector's edition is pretty impressive. And then the big thing from that is a 15-inch statue of Magellan Man. So they're going to try to squeeze out a couple extra bucks out of you for this. My guess is that collector's edition of this game will sell out in about 3 seconds, if it even takes that long. I'll just say this second one looks insane compared to the first one. I am definitely way more interested in playing this than the first game.
I mean, I certainly appreciate the amount of kaiju on display. A lot of it really does look like it's going to be the same thing.
Yeah.
And this was sort of in play in the first one, where it's like, I mean, it looks like Kojima's been reading a lot of Attack on Titan.
Yeah,
really.
You're right.
Where like anything interesting that happened meant you fucked up. This is like, you know, like I think this is much more representative of, you know, I'm sure there'll be cutscenes or things, because one of the things that annoyed me about the first game was like, you weren't really supposed to fight shit. You weren't really supposed to, you know, there's so much of Kojima's stuff is like, if you've gotten into combat, you failed.
You made a mistake, yeah.
And that's been around since at least Metal Gear Solid 2, I would say.
Mm-hmm.
And like, it got to the point where, like, so when something like that would happen in Death Stranding, I'm like, I don't actually really know what to do, because I haven't.
Like, wait, I gotta fight.
I haven't been fighting anything. Like, and you're like, wait, is this? I have to do this, or like, did I screw up by doing this? I don't know.
It looks like combat's way more prevalent in this one, at least based upon the marketing. They show gunplay way more than they did before.
Again, I don't trust the marketing.
Right.
Like, it doesn't mean
it is Kojima.
Nothing necessarily reflects what the game actually is.
And that guy right there, that Neil whatever that they just showed.
Mm-hmm.
So
Neil.
later on in this trailer, he looks like
Snake.
Solid
Snake.
Yeah. Like, what's going on there?
Well, it's.
You think Konami has the guts to call him out on it?
No, I think Kojima. I think Kojima knows that if he does that, everyone's just gonna be like, oh, like he knows exactly what button to press for his fucking fanboys. So.
Yeah. I don't know. He made some cockamamie excuse for why he put Snake in here. This character is important and people need to remember.
I mean, he's just. It doesn't look like he is Snake. But
yeah,
he's just dressed.
Yeah, it's not actually Snake. It's just hey, we're gonna put this guy in here who looks just like him.
It's kind of like Cameron ripping off Aliens. It's like if anyone can do that, it's him.
Right.
You know, if anyone gets to rip off Solid Snake, it's Kojima.
Yeah.
Why
I
not?
mean, it's his baby. Again, I just wonder how forgiving Konami will be on stuff like that. Probably very forgiving.
I believe the expression is "come at me, bro."
Seriously.
Like, you think your fucking PR's in the toilet right now? Try suing Kojima.
Yeah. Yep. So I am more excited for
while
this
you're
game
still
than
trying
the
to
first.
capitalize on the games that he made for you.
Right.
With your master collection.
Yeah.
Shit.
Seriously. It would take some guts, man, to do something like that. But Konami seems to be petty. It really does. I mean, otherwise, Kojima would probably still be there. Let's be honest.
Mm-hmm.
So anyway, I was pretty excited by what they showed of this at South by Southwest.
I like all this stuff. Like, I mean, I like the visual stuff. I like the monsters. But again, I don't think I'm gonna like the game.
Yeah, I didn't like playing the first one at all. I got bored out of my mind very quickly.
I would watch the movie, but I don't particularly care about playing the game.
Yeah, this shot right here is just Kojima.
I appreciate that, like, you know, Kojima's always had pretty crazy ideas and crazy, like, visuals, but I appreciate that he has actually found a way to make some of those crazy, like, just these batshit visual ideas look halfway believable in a photoreal attempt at photoreal imagery.
Yeah.
You know, like the fact that he can make that tentacle come out of that guy's mouth and it looks like it's actually
could
happening in that world,
yeah.
or the fact that he's got the different frame rate animation of the ventriloquist dummy stop motion thing in the same scene as
normal animation,
like
yeah.
and it kind of works, like it kind of fits, like you kind of accept it. Like, that's pretty impressive.
This game is insane. It just is totally bonkers.
Oh sure, but you remember when they showed shit like this
in the first one, and I was like, this game is insane. It's totally bonkers.
But also, what I'm thinking is, like, you know, Black Myth Wukong. That was all the first 5 minutes,
right,
which you didn't even really play.
Right. This could just all be one cinematic that starts the game. Yeah, just chopped up for the trailer.
It's probably a dream.
It might be. It doesn't even really happen.
Or like, you know, like it's like Del Toro's character tells you the horrible thing that will happen if you all fail, and that's the imagery of it. And it's like, no, that never actually happens. So I don't know.
So anyway, that's the latest update on Death Stranding 2. Again, it is coming on June 26th. It could still get delayed.
Could be. And also remember, no matter what happens of all that crazy shit, Norman Reedus will never have a visual reaction to it.
Right.
He's just going to look
stand there.
I need a shower.
There's the special editions that we talked about. There's a concert tour coming up. No matter what, the game is definitely coming out this year.
Yeah.
Because they wouldn't schedule that concert tour unless they are 1,000%.
There's way too much smoke for the fire now. I mean, I will be surprised if it gets pushed out.
Now. But I wouldn't have been surprised before until
No, but I mean, if you're this... I mean, we are pretty close to June.
Yeah,
it's 3 months out. They know.
I mean, my guess is the game's done.
I would
it's
think
probably
so.
in a can. Yeah. So there you go. That's Death Stranding 2. Only a few more months
Something would
away.
have to go really wrong, I think.
Yep. Okay, so one thing I've realized now that we've been changing the format of GameFace and trying to get it down to a shorter time and then doing our offline reviews is that at the end of every episode, I usually have like 4 or 5 topics that we don't have time to get to. And that has happened again today. But what I want to do to make sure that we still actually talk about those topics is do what we're going to call the lightning round. And eventually we'll have a sound effect that fires off for that. In fact, I'm going to play that right now in post-production.
Who knows?
And the lightning round is basically just Matt and I trying to go through like 3 or 4 topics in like 5 minutes. So we're going to address them with like a sentence or two and then very quickly move on. I think this could get fun as we get better at it and we do it more in the show. And also make sure that we bring up some news items that maybe normally wouldn't have made it into the show. So Matt, are you ready to do our first ever lightning round?
Sure.
First topic. Forza Horizon 5 on PlayStation 5 requires a Microsoft login.
Duh.
Duh?
Yeah.
Because you know what, PlayStation, when it was on the other foot, everyone freaked out about it, about PlayStation like demanding their login when you played their games on PC. Mm-hmm. Now it feels like Microsoft is kind of returning the favor with PlayStation with this.
Yeah, they want you in the ecosystem. Like this whole, but get used to it. You already have one. Just fucking log in.
Well, Sony did drop it now. I mean, Sony doesn't do it anymore.
Yeah, because people screamed about it, but it's stupid. Just log in. You never have to do it again. I have an EA login on PlayStation and Xbox, and I don't even remember the login. But it's all automatic. You do it once and it's done.
You don't have to worry about it again.
Get over it.
Yeah, I hear you. Next, in Europe, you will be able to rent a PlayStation 5 for $15 a month or £11 a month. Do you think anybody should or will rent a PlayStation 5 for $15 a month?
I mean, if it's just like one thing you want to play.
Yeah.
Good way to play Death Stranding, too.
Actually, you bring up a good point. You spend $15, you get the PS5 for a month, then you get to play that one game that you want to play.
Sell the game back afterward. You get a physical copy.
Yeah, you get most of your money back for that, and you take the... Yeah, I could see that working, actually. Yeah. I agree with you.
Cheaper than a movie in a lot of ways, a lot of places.
Yep. Next story. The Gears of War collection is on the way. That's a story that people didn't know about. There's a Gears of War collection, the first 3 or 2 Gears of War games. I can't remember.
I think it was 3.
3 are coming, and they haven't been announced yet. But the catch is that they were removing the online multiplayer from those games. Big deal or not?
Depends. Like, I don't care.
Yeah.
But I'd imagine to most people, online multiplayer is those games.
Right.
So
to me, that's kind of the DNA of Gears, you know?
See, to me, it's a story.
The campaign,
It's
yeah.
campaigns. But I also don't really know if I want to play those campaigns again.
Well, the good news is you will be able to play those cooperatively now. That will be the new connectivity.
Well, they were always cooperative.
Really?
Yeah.
I didn't think you could play the first one co-op.
I played Gears of War 1 and 2 with Kevin Pereira online cooperatively.
So that's just no big deal then.
No.
Because it's always been a part of it. The next story. Monster Hunter Wilds is now the fastest selling Capcom game of all time. It sold 8 million units in like 2 days.
You can't stop the monster train.
Why is this selling so well?
I don't know.
Versus other Monster Hunters. Like Capcom said yesterday, it's because of the story.
Yeah, I saw that. I like that explanation, but I don't think it's actually
I don't buy it. Yeah.
I think Monster Hunter is just continuing to gain steam as a franchise. Like, it's just people keep talking about it, and everyone sells better, and I think they haven't hit their plateau yet.
It's the snowball rolling downhill. Yeah, I believe that as well. And then finally, our last story in the lightning round, Discord is going IPO. And sifters were not happy about this. They just assumed that means that Discord is now going to suck, and some of them were like, now where do we go? Mm-hmm. What's your take on it?
I mean, they're probably right. Like, as soon as you're beholden to shareholders, you have to make decisions that are not in the consumer's interest, so... but maybe Discord will be the one that doesn't fall prey to that. Let's hope.
There's a certain angle of like a business needs to make money to survive, right?
Well, you can make money without going public. Tons of Steam's not public. I mean,
probably the founders of Discord are like, we're sick of dealing with this crap. Like, let's cash out and we can just give it off to somebody else, and it can be their headache. I could, as someone who's founded a company, I can understand that on a certain level. Because it's a grind, man. It's hard starting your own company. You work your ass off, and sometimes you don't make any money. And so I could see at a certain point where they might be like, look, man, like, we've been busting our asses on this for like 15 years now. We haven't made hardly any money. Like, it's time.
I mean, I'd probably make the same decision in their position.
But that doesn't mean you have to keep supporting it if it turns into a bad product.
No, you gotta be happy about it.
Yeah.
No. But like, I mean, you can still make, again, I think it's different when you're just making a product that's selling successfully. Like, selling Monster Hunter, I think, it makes more and more every time, is different than something like Discord, where it's just inherently public facing every day, every way, every single element. I mean, the whole function of your business is people interacting with each other, and let's face it,
that's a tough business.
It's a tough business anyway, but let's face it, the people on Discord, every day, all day, the most complainy of them. I mean,
right. Most people go to Discord to complain now.
Oh, yeah.
That's like where they go. They don't go on Twitter anymore. They go on the Discord for whatever is attached.
Go to the Discord because you know someone from the company or someone from the official whatever is looking at it.
Yep.
Like, someone going to tell someone, hey, there's some guy being a weirdo in the general, and it's just like...
Again?
Yeah.
That's so, 10 times today.
I can 100% understand why you wouldn't want to... If you could cash out, get all your money, go off and do something else, or maybe go off and do nothing at all.
Yeah.
I would definitely rather do that than have to deal with the millions of weirdos on Discord who are always unhappy about something. But I think the people who are skeptical or concerned about this are probably correct, because very rarely does being beholden to shareholders work out well for the consumers who like the product to begin with.
No, you're right. And my guess is Discord probably does become something that people don't want to use.
The good news is it means there's room for someone to start a new one.
That was my question. Does this open the door for somebody to just recreate Discord, but now with no ads, and then sell that? I mean,
probably.
It's like, I wonder why Instagram...
Until they go public, and then you got to do another one. You know, it's like, or maybe everyone just goes back to Slack. I don't know. Like,
well, it's like Instagram. Like, to me, I don't know why it exists. It's like you just told people that they can only view photos there, so they just only view photos there. But like Facebook has the same functionality, and I would argue better. Because on Instagram, it's like you can't permanently zoom in. It's like if you release it, it shrinks back down. On Facebook, I can look at a photo, blow it up, and it stays there. Like, I actually think Facebook is better for images than Instagram, but because you were told that Instagram is only for photos, then people just use it for photos. Like, it's bizarre. And now Instagram's worth like $1 billion.
Well,
like,
early on, it was a much
more.
It was a much more user-friendly way of getting photos onto it. Like the gap has shrunk to almost nothing at this point, especially because it's now owned by Facebook.
Yeah,
it was not true originally, obviously. It was another alternative. The community was different. It was just it was more female focused. I think it was more friendly in that regard. And I think those differences have kind of melted over time. And everybody has story. The fact that you had temporary stories that didn't exist forever and it was a more immediate thing, that was cool. But now everybody does it.
Yeah.
Like the stuff that made Instagram special at the time has sort of faded away. And the thing that keeps
the reason
Instagram is still a different platform from Facebook is really just inertia. Like people don't want to leave the thing they're familiar with.
Yeah.
And it hasn't done anything like outright horrible so far. So Instagram is still a thing.
Yeah.
But it does kind of feel like,
could you do that with Discord now? Just basically
probably
make another one with one little goofy, or just tell people something's different, even if it's not.
You could try it. You'd have to wait and see what the new version, what the
Let's do it, people.
You'd have to wait and see what the public-facing version of Discord fucked up first,
right?
And then offer that.
I mean, it's inevitable, right?
Probably, but you got to see which way it's going to break.
Yeah,
you don't know what they're going to fuck up.
Yeah, then you shape your product based on.
It's very difficult to predict what kind of stupid shit shareholders are going to make you do.
Yeah, it's true. Yep. Well, there you go. That's our first ever lightning round. On GameFace, we'll be doing this every week going forward. I think it's a fun way to get through a bunch of topics to cap off the show. And hopefully you guys enjoyed it as well. And of course, there's just one thing left to do in GameFace, and that is this. That's right. It's time for Name That Game Tune, brought to you by Soundwizardry.com. The wizards of audio. They can do anything with audio. They make games. They work on podcasts. They work on films. They work on shorts. Anything that you're working on that has audio, they can help you with it. They can make it better. I promise you. They have worked on several Game of the Year winners, several Game of the Year candidates. Right now, they are working on a gigantic game that I cannot share with you. Go to soundwizardry.com for any auditory needs. They will help you out. And I really appreciate that they support this awesome thing that we do here on GameFace called Name That Game Tune. It's very simple. I play you 5 samples from a video game, audio samples. You try to guess the name of the game before Matt. Sometimes it's a soundtrack. Sometimes it's a sound effect. Sometimes it's a line of voiceover. You never know. But ultimately, hopefully, they become more obvious as we get to the 5th one and more likely for one of you guys to guess it. So, are you ready to, Matt? Got those headphones ready to go? Turn up the audio for you.
GameFace only started early if you don't have daylight savings time where you are.
Right. Oh, yeah, I didn't think about that. God bless America. A couple things before we get going. If you've already won this year, do not play. You can only win once per calendar year. Number 2, if you don't play PC games, please don't play because we give away PC games to the winner. And then finally, we put the chat into slow mode, so don't go spamming the chat with a bunch of game titles hoping that you're going to win. You won't. You will lose. You can only put chat in once every 60 seconds, so make sure you make them count. Are you ready to play Name That Game Tune, Matt?
Yeah.
Are you guys ready to play Name That Game Tune? Here we go with the first sound effect for episode 424 in 3, 2, 1. Go. I'll play it one more time. Blades of Steel, no. Suikoden I&II, no. The Last of Us, no. The Last of Us was last week. World of Warcraft, no. Left 4 Dead, no. Red Dead 2, no. Techno Cop, no. I don't even know what that is.
It's a Genesis game.
I'm not even familiar with that game.
It was one of the really violent ones. Like, people exploded and stuff.
Oh.
And it was
like scanners?
Sort of.
Yeah.
Except the whole body.
Oh.
It was sort of a It was a small controversy at the time.
Interesting. Days Gone, no. Peppa Pig, no. Blue Dragon, no.
Peppa Pig, the final chapter, maybe.
Yeah. Gears 3, no. State of Decay, no. Stray, no. Hogwarts Legacy, negative. Goat Simulator, nope. Turok 3, nope. Naughty Bear, unfortunately, no. Monster Hunter, the new one, Wilds, nope. Not that one either. Any guesses?
That Amnesia Machine for Pigs?
No, it's not it either. Okay, we're going on to the second one, and here we go. In 3, 2, 1, go. That's a longer one. I'm only going to play it once. Stalker 2, no. We have a winner. It's Stucky.
No.
It is The Witcher 3.
I almost said that.
He got it on the second one. That's pretty darn good. If Matt didn't get it on the second one, I felt pretty good. If you didn't get it.
I couldn't hear it.
Oh.
I should have had you turn it up more.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, just hit me up and I'll turn it up for you if you can't hear it. So there you go. You got on the second one.
First one is okay. Second one, I couldn't hear the nuance of it.
Okay.
I almost said Witcher 3, but...
Do you want to hear the last three before you take them off?
Yeah.
Just for fun. Here's the third one.
It's Siri training on the...
Yeah,
on the
good
fence.
call. Good catch. Here's the fourth one.
Please, I'm not decrepit yet.
Vesemir.
Yep. And here's the last one.
Which is the menus.
I think I may have screwed that one up. Is that all it was menus?
I heard there's music behind it, but I didn't... It sounded like picking stuff in menus.
Interesting. I think I may have messed that one up. Well, I'm glad Stucky got on the second one then. The last one sounds like Who Wants to Be a Millionaire, says Swan Senpai. Stucky, congratulations once again. Here's another round of applause for you. Great job, brother. Or sister, actually, with a name like Stucky, who knows? And, yeah. Stucky, you can get at me right here on Twitch. You can send us a DM here. You can send me a DM on SIFTD. I'm at Shane. You can send me a DM on Twitter. I'm at Dinfire. On Blue Sky, I'm Shane Satterfield. Go to any of those places and send me a DM, and we'll start working on getting you your free game. It can take a little while sometimes. I'm really slammed, so don't freak out. If you don't get your game in the next couple of days, you will eventually get your game, I promise. Everybody has always gotten their rewards. But hit me up, and I'll get those out to you. And before we go, I just want to say, first of all, thanks to the chat. Sorry we didn't bring you guys into the show until much later than we wanted to. But we did get you into the show. I'm very happy about that. I didn't know if that was going to happen or not. But thanks to chat. You guys make the show better every time. Hopefully next week we'll have you guys in there from the beginning. If you're watching this show on YouTube, head down into the description for this and learn how to help us out with Twitch Prime. If you're an Amazon Prime subscriber, 2 clicks for $2, as Patrick likes to say. 2 clicks, $2. If you can't do that for us, I don't know what to say. You don't like GameFace. You don't like me. That's all I can say. If you do have some money, head to patreon.com/SIFTD. Let me see if I can bring that up real fast here. That's spelled SIFTD. For just $4 a month, you get all our content early. You get this show 4 days early, the archive. You get Pactor Factor a week early. All our other content at least 3 days early. It's definitely worth the cost. You also get everything ad-free. So if you're watching this on YouTube and you're sick of the ads popping up every 10 minutes, to be honest with you, I schedule them every 10 to 15 minutes. So if they're firing off more often than that, that's YouTube being slimy. I'm just telling you. And if they are being slimy and you're sick of YouTube being slimy, go to Patreon. You get all our content without ads. It runs ad-free until we put it up for free on YouTube. And then if you don't have any money, don't have Amazon Prime, just like the show. Click that right now. Like the show right now. Like the show, leave a comment, even if Shane sucks, that's fine. I don't care. I'll take the insult to get the action in the algorithm. I'm totally cool with that. All that stuff makes a difference for us. If you're listening to this show on a podcast service, review the show, give it 5 stars, give it 1 star. It doesn't matter. Even a review helps it bubble up through the algorithm and help be found in search. It all makes a difference, and we appreciate anything that you guys could do for us to help. It would be awesome. So let's see. What's next week? I'm trying to figure out if this game that I'm playing right now, if the embargo will break. The embargo is the 8th. What's the date today? Or I'm sorry, the 18th.
I was going to say it's
Yeah,
the
we already
11th,
passed
so,
that. The 18th.
18th would be next Tuesday.
Tuesday. We're going to have an awesome show next week. That's all I'm going to say. So make sure you're here at twitch.tv/SIFTD
I think I have a guess.
Yeah, I think most people probably have a rough idea of what I'm talking about. But anyway, make sure you're here next Tuesday at twitch.tv/SIFTDgames at 1 p.m. Pacific, 4 p.m. Eastern. I promise you we're going to have an awesome show. So have yourselves an awesome week full of awesome games. GameFace is up and out.